we start now? Okay, good morning. Welcome to the December 4th Palo Alto Architectural
Recording
Review
in
Board.
progress.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the December 4th meeting of Palo Alto Architectural Review Board. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair Chen?
Yes,
Vice
here.
Chair Adcock?
Yes.
Board Member Hirsch?
Yes.
Board Member Georgiard?
Yes.
Board Member Rosenberg?
Yes.
For the record, we have 5 present.
Thank you. Next is agenda changes, additions, and deletions.
No changes planned for today.
Okay, thank you. And next is the public comment. This is the time for anyone who wants to speak about an item that is not on the agenda today. So if you'd like to speak an agendized item, you will have time for later this meeting.
To the Chair, I've received no public comment cards for general public comment at this moment.
Okay, thank you. And next, I will hand it over to the staff for city official report.
All right, well, good morning and welcome to our December meeting. One of the last ones of the year. Let me share my screen here. All right, well, jumping into some upcoming and recently submitted items as detailed in that report, we are anticipating for that December 18th meeting of not having a project ready, so we could potentially discuss a meeting cancellation for that December 18th meeting. That would leave this meeting as the last meeting of 2025. And a recently submitted item since our last meeting was the 788 San Antonio project. So that is a rezoning for a 167-unit mixed-use building with 25 affordable housing units at 8 stories in height. And as I just mentioned, we may want to consider holding a special meeting, perhaps in January, in lieu of perhaps that December meeting being canceled on the 18th. And just for reference, here's the tentative 2026 meeting schedule, also as attachment B to the staff report. And with the first meeting of January being on the New Year's, that is canceled. So there are potentially 3 other Thursdays in that month of January to potentially do that. Following perhaps on either January 29th or any other dates. As we draw closer to that, perhaps at the January 15th meeting, we could discuss scheduling a special meeting, but just wanting to put that on the board's radar. And some updates. We did receive information from the clerk's office that the work plan will be presented to City Council on February 2nd. 2026, and the chair has agreed to present that on behalf of the board. So if you're available on February 2nd, please tune in for that discussion. And with that, I can entertain any questions.
Any questions to the staff at this moment?
Just inquiring, what would the special meeting be in regards to, or is it just to potentially make up for some projects?
It would be potentially to make up for some projects. The project that was tentatively scheduled for the 18th could be heard at that special meeting. So.
Okay, great, thank you.
Would we consider, I know it's kind of out of sequence, like the Thursday before and after the 15th? Or other boards and commissions meeting overlapping those?
So we would need to coordinate with the clerk about availability of the chambers. So I believe that the 29th is that last meeting that generally was reserved for the Historic Resources Board at their second meeting, but their meetings were reduced down to once a month. So that is off the top of my head one availability, but other meeting availabilities could be other days of the week. So.
All right, with that, I will move it to item number 2 today. So it is 375 Hamilton Avenue, request for preliminary architectural review for the construction of a new 6-story parking garage with a total of 266 parking spaces on the existing surface level parking lot D. And staff recommend that the ARB to review and provide informal comments. No formal action is requested. So with that, I will hand it over to Christina for staff presentation.
Thank you and good morning, everybody. I'm here today. My name is Christina Dobkevičius. I'm the associate planner with the city, presenting the city's project at 375 Hamilton Avenue, which is a parking garage project. The project site is zoned as a public facility, and the allowable uses within the zone district include public facilities and uses owned and leased by the city of Palo Alto. Both the parking garage and the future affordable housing on the site are both permitted uses. The subject application is a request for a preliminary architectural review for a proposed 6-story parking garage that has 266 parking spaces and is currently in use as a public surface parking lot, Lot D. The downtown parking garage project was first introduced in the City Council's 2014 infrastructure plan as part of the city's broader effort to improve downtown parking availability. Between 2017 and 2018, Waterway Design completed the preliminary design and environmental review for the 6-story parking structure, and shortly thereafter, the project was placed on hold to allow further evaluation of alternative parking management strategies. The council certified the environmental impact report and approved the project to move forward in February 2019. In December 2023, council directed staff to resume work on the downtown parking garage project with the new goal of integrating it with the future affordable housing. The proposed project, as designed, exceeds the allowable height, floor area, and setbacks. However, in accordance with Palo Alto Municipal Code Section 1828060E, on sites within the downtown district where the primary use is a parking garage, council may modify the development standards and setbacks to achieve community goals. This is the option 1A, and this is the option that was chosen by the council on April 14th in 2025. So staff from Public Works Engineering, Waterway, and Alta Housing reviewed these conceptual options presented to the council, with option 1A being the most viable option chosen by the council. Option 1A presents 274 parking spaces and features 6 levels of above-ground parking with reserved area to allow future construction of affordable housing, with the net addition of 111 parking spaces, new parking stalls. The option you see here today and the project we have here today has 266 parking spaces and a space for the future affordable housing along Waverly Street. The proposed parking structure replaces 86 existing public parking spaces on the surface. The total parking count also accommodates for 52 parking spaces that are currently proposed to be removed from the Lot T, another city-owned parking lot, surface parking lot, and proposes a new increase of 128 parking spaces. 25 of these spaces are intended to serve the future affordable housing use. The total number of parking spaces provided in these conceptual plans has slightly decreased by 8 total spaces in comparison to the option 1A, the option that council recommended to move forward with, because of some of the changes throughout the layout, but the applicant has confirmed there is a possibility to getting those spaces back to meet the 274 spaces originally recommended to be approved by the council. Sorry. Okay. So this one. For the building design and materials, I do have a materials board. Maybe if, should I just pass it by you guys? Mhm.
The material boards at the
Yes, we have
dais.
the tiny one over there. So the building design incorporates articulated facades with high-quality materials and screening elements to break up the massing and enhance the visual interest, which is consistent with the guidelines' emphasis on human scale and architectural quality. At the street level, the project improves the pedestrian experience through widened sidewalks, active ground-level elements, and landscaping and trees along the Hamilton and Waverly Street. Also, there is intent to add a permanent public art along the Hamilton Avenue facade frontage and a temporary public art along the Waverly Street frontage. The artist was reapproved by the Public Art Commission to engage in the new design process, and the artist is exploring the design options. We do anticipate some ideas, preliminary ideas, in early 2026. Until the future housing is developed, the inclusion of temporary public plaza east of the garage is further contributes to the downtown's public spaces, which aligns with the city's vision for an accessible, vibrant, and well-designed urban environment. Proposal includes painted pavement, street furniture, and landscaping. Today, we are asking Architecture Review Board to provide objective and site-specific comments on the preliminary design, and your comments should be based on the bullet points here on the screen. We would appreciate the comments about the massing, scale, site planning, pedestrian orientation, material selection, as such. At this early stage, the project has not been reviewed. It has only been reviewed only for general compliance with the zoning regulations, and a more comprehensive analysis will be done at the formal submittal. And today, it's recommended that the Architecture Review Board review and provide informal comments. No formal action is required. Thank you. I also have Public Works Assistant Director Holly Boyd here, and our design team at Watery and Ken Hayes, who also have a presentation.
Good morning. My name is Holly Boyd. I'm the Assistant Director for Public Works. I'm representing the owner for this project. I'd like to turn it over to Ken Hayes, who is going to do the project presentation.
Okay, so typically before the applicant presentation, we will have a session for the question to the staff. So do we have any questions to the staff at this moment?
I do have one question. It was on the elevation slide deck. There was an option A, B, C. Yeah, right here. So the proposed, it was a 1A, but it's the C elevation, is that correct?
No, so those three options are the options presented today. So the applicant is offering a few design like you are able to choose or comment on all three options, basically. Those three are based on option 1A design from 2025 council's approval.
So in an attempt to clarify, I think that you're saying that the option 1A was the floor plan and the layout of the parking structure.
Yes,
And
so
right
let
now,
me-
today, we're looking at options A, B, and C
Yeah,
for the
option
skin.
one, yeah, correct, that's correct. Option 1A is the one of the three options that were shown and presented to the council. And what option 1A had a 6-story garage with affordable housing site, and you see it in green. And so this will be further redeveloped. The intent was to further redevelop it to have affordable housing element on the right-hand side where that plaza in green is. And so today, the applicant is proposing a preliminary design with three possible options for how the elevations could be treated along both Hamilton and Waverly Street.
And just to follow up on that, the renderings shown on the packet pages, like, there's no page number, appears to be closest to B or, can't. Yeah. Oh, I see. So so each one of these are, because it's hard to tell what's shown as option A does not look like that option A, so I'm a bit confused. So maybe Ken will elaborate. All right, thank you.
All right.
And also, just for clarification, making sure that we're on the same page, and I'm going to doodle on the screen here as I do. So here, this sort of building in the background, that's the building, that's this building here that's existing to remain in the background. It's basically just showing what's beyond, and there is no proposal for this new affordable housing at the moment. Is that correct? It's just being placeholder, and nothing shown in these drawings has anything to do with that.
That's correct.
Got it. Thank you very much. Okay.
Board Member Georges?
Yeah, do we have any information about how likely it is and when this affordable housing might be constructed?
So we don't have any information to date. It's just when we went to council in April, council voted for the option to reserve the space for affordable housing. I imagine it will move forward similarly to the way the Lot T project is currently moving forward. I don't know if you want to answer anymore, Kyle.
Good morning, Kyle Ariano, Chief Assistant City Attorney. So direct answer to your question is we do not know. The council's direction was to simply choose a garage option that would allow for it in the future. So what we are seeing this morning are some aesthetic treatments to that portion of the garage fronting on the section next to, I guess, right at the corner of Waverly and Hamilton, leaving open that space for a potential affordable housing, for the potential construction of affordable housing. We don't have any plans or a timeframe for that project at this point.
Thank you.
Do we have a base requirement for the number of parking stalls and the number of units that we expected for this lot?
I believe the preliminary sketches that our design team put together proposed 15 total units. Now, that's completely variable of 1, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, so that it can be determined later. But I believe for those 15 units, we had 25 that we thought would be required for the housing development, 25 spaces.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anybody study the housing as it might fit on that site?
Staff from Watry, Public Works Engineering, and affordable housing developer, Alta Housing, looked at these plans and thought they were feasible and recommended this option.
They didn't study it by putting it together as a building form of some sort or a sketch?
Well, Watry and the Hayes Group had put together the sketches. They reviewed the sketches that we had put together as part of the study that we presented to council. But they didn't study it in depth. It was just a couple meetings.
Couple of meetings. So it wasn't a study in the volume of the building next door, because some of the schemes we're looking at here for the parking garage itself impacts the corner, might impact the corner. So you don't have a plan for the kind of a scheme of the shape of the housing at all?
Ken has the preliminary layout floor plan, but that is it. Of an assumed 6-story building, similar to what the parking structure would be.
Okay, with that, I think we can just have the applicant.
If I can also chime in on that, in the staff report that went to council in April, on April 14, there was an attachment A, that included the floor plan and preliminary floor plans for those units. So it was based on the reasonable size of the units. So the base or the first floor was designed for amenities, storage, trash, bikes, whatnot, and then the other 5 floors were for housing units, for 3 units on each floor. And we have those preliminary plans there if you would like to take a look at those, attachment A.
Thank you. With that, can we have the applicant team to come towards the microphone for the applicant presentation? You will have 10 minutes.
Yeah. Let me get it going.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, it's working. Okay. Good morning, Chair Chen.
Good morning.
Members
Mr.
of the
Hayes.
board, no, I'm sorry, I saw an empty chair. My name is Ken Hayes with Hayes Group Architects, and I'll be making the presentation on behalf of the Watry design team. Before I start, I want to thank planner Christina Dobakevicius and Assistant Public Works Director Holly Boyd for helping us bring the application to you this morning. So as we know, the site is a 2/3 acre corner parcel at Waverly and Hamilton, currently used for city parking. The property is zoned PF, public facility, and the surrounding properties are CDC, ground floor restricted, pedestrian overlay. And there's also some PF properties like across the street and next door. There's a one-way alley from Waverly Street to Bryant Street at the back of the property. And there are some neighboring historic resources, which include across Hamilton, the post office, which is a Category 1. As we go down Waverly Street, 2 doors, we have the former Palo Alto Toy and Sports Store, it's Category 2. Next to that is the Queen Anne Decker House, Category 2. And then next to that on the corner of University is the Decker Oaks Building, a Category 3. Contextual views of here's the post office with the terracotta tile roof, rhythm of the arcade, and black wrought iron detailing. Down Waverly, we have the former Taipan and prolific oven next door, and then next door to that, we have the historic building, the Palo Alto Toy and Sport. On Hamilton, the parking lot is in the middle, AT&T building, about 60 plus feet tall on the left, and then on the right, we have across the street, we have the Caston Place All Saints Church. In 2019, as staff said, council approved a 5-story garage with a basement. The design included board form concrete structure, terracotta colored metal fins, and perforated metal screens that defined entries and so on. The program for the new garage is 6-level garage, nothing underground, for 266 cars, replacing the 86 on site. There's a 4,500 square foot open space on the right-hand side on the corner for future low-income housing. There is bike parking off of what we're calling the Paseo there, and then the trash enclosure at the rear of the property. We also need a plan for rooftop future solar photovoltaic array, and then we'll be coordinating and collaborating with the Atlanta artist Amy Landisberg for incorporation of public art. Site constraints, we basically have a 0 setback on the east, which is the left side, west. West is left. 16 feet on the east side, and 10 feet of that is clear for pedestrian and bicycle access and circulation. We then have a 10-foot paseo next to Taipan, and then at the front of the building, there's a special setback that's going to be eliminated. We'll end up with a 2-foot setback and a approximately 12-foot sidewalk. The parking dimension is 60 feet when you add those up on both legs of the building, so that's a constraint. We have 20% of the total wall area needs to be open for 40% of the perimeter. So it's the blue line along the Paseo and the west or the east side of the project, as well as the frontage on Hamilton, needs to essentially be 20% or 40% open. Pedestrian zones on the ground floor here would include amenities like planters, benches, and sort of C3 storm treatment. We have auto access off of Hamilton. That's the only access to the garage for vehicles. Bicycle access off of Hamilton, as well as the Paseo, which would get you into the bike storage room. And we have pedestrian circulation at the east end and west end, next to the open space at the east end, and then off of the Paseo, which leads you to the main elevator, where we have the main vertical circulation are the two red areas. And then again, we have the open space. We're calling it temporary open space. Imagery and materials, we're thinking of richly detailed facades with textured concrete, metal stairs and railings, maybe picking up on the post office, deep recesses for shade and shadow, perforated metal mesh and fins to hide the cars, create dimension and permit ventilation in the garage. Outdoor spaces and pedestrian nodes and circulation will be defined kind of with the way that you see these stairs happening here where they become exposed. And we want to have defined circulation that is easy to identify and adds to wayfinding, et cetera. This is the view that you see in your staff report, a little misleading, but essentially it shows the street view on Hamilton. We have 68 foot tall to the top of the PV panels. In all the concepts that I'm going to show you, the pedestrian zone at the street is reinforced by a horizontal canopy here at the bottom that wraps around. Raised planters, inset benches, but the organization of the building is the same in all three of the options. The west end is the auto entry here. We have an entry and feature stair at the other end of the building here, and we'll be using perforated metal in these locations to define entries. The building's terminated at the top with the solar array and kind of a rhythm of steel beams and columns. The body of the building now has three alternatives in the application of like the metal fins and the perforation and the rhythm. And so the first one we're calling 1, 2, and 3 instead of A, B, and C. All right, so let's do 1, 2, 3. Option 1 would be a symmetrical composition around a required shear wall on this side of the building. We have the perforated metal defining the garage on the left, similar in all concepts. Maybe that has a three-dimensional quality to it. Perforated metal on the right that changes between these options that define that stair and kind of peels back to reveal views of the post office. And then the shear wall in the center. I'm calling this the symmetrical option 1. And those are fins on either side of the shear wall. Option 2, everything the same, except I'm calling this the sort of consolidated fins and offset shear wall. The shroud at the perforated shroud at the stair on the right-hand side is a little bit enlarged in this option. And then option 3 is similar to option 2, except we introduce this horizontal banding to try to maybe break up the scale or the height of the garage. As we go around the building, this is the corner of Waverly. We've got sort of a 2-panel inset options of textured concrete. This is where the housing is going to be. So there's a lot here that we need to think about for the future and not have to do too much work to the existing garage. But this has a base with 2 panels recessed. Option 2 would be a single panel in the center and really no definition of base, but that panel would be the textured concrete. The whiter panel would be the board form concrete. And then in the third option, we would create, again, textured concrete, probably board form with maybe vines that can grow up the building. On the right-hand side, the bigger move is to get rid of the concrete there and provide some relief with some openings there for light and air in the garage and kind of get your attention off to that side of the building. A view from the post office corner. Now, these are interchangeable. What we do on the left on the main Hamilton facade could be paired with any of the options, in my opinion, on the Waverly side. So here's, that was option 1, option 2, and option 3 there. And As we look further into the building, this is from the end of the Paseo on the left-hand side, looking down the Paseo, the garage is on the left, where we have some festoon lights that would be hung from cantilevered steel elements off of the garage, leading to one of the main entries and stair elevator circulation elements. Then taking a step further down the Paseo, the bike parking would be on the left, and again, headed towards the main entry. And then you finally, on the right, arrive at the main entry. It's a covered area. It's defined by the perforated metal. There'll be benches there, and a two-story space when you come in. From that lobby now, looking back towards Waverly, the garage is on the right, which is the left-hand view, and then on the right-hand side, this view is sort of a bird's eye of what that stair would look like, and the perforated metal kind of defining the lobby. The elevator, stair are all incorporated into that element. On the far west side at Hamilton, on the ground floor, we have a pedestrian node there with, again, benches and planters and an entry. The metal canopy that runs down defining the pedestrian zone along Hamilton would turn and enter into the garage here. And then you can see where the car is coming out. That is the automobile entrance. And then on the right is the stair as it cascades down from the upper floors, kind of spilling out onto the sidewalk. And I like the idea of that being kind of ripped open like that, so that you, as you come up and down the stair, you can get views of the post office, and it just seems more fun. And then a view sort of stepping back. All right, so the open space, we're calling this the temporary open space. We got to think of it kind of like a pop-up space almost. We don't know what the time horizon is, but the concept.
Excuse me. You
Am I
have
out of
your
time?
Yeah, so how much time do you think you need?
20 seconds.
Okay, thank you, go ahead.
The temporary open space by Merrill Morris Landscape Architects basically involves minimal site prep, patch and resurface the existing asphalt parking lot with continuous asphalt, retaining the tree that is there. We would then paint the asphalt, which is the view on the right. Those colors we're not committed to provide some organization to the space. And then we would activate it with two different options. Option on the left is benches and tables, and then some additional trees. And option B on the right would be the same as tables and benches, but perhaps there's some more formal planters in the sinuous shape that runs down the left-hand side. Thank you. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much. So before we questions to the applicant, we will have the public comments. Do we have any public comments for this project?
Yes, through the chair, I have one request to speak at the moment. I invite Herb B. to come to the mic.
Please state and spell your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to talk.
Herb Borak, my name is spelled exactly the same as it is on the card I submitted, H-E-R-B-B-O-R-O-C-K. You are design professionals, but the city council has decided that planning issues also come before you. This project, as so-called, is providing replacement parking spaces that are being removed by the application for the parking lot at Lytton and Kipling. Therefore, they are the same project as that term is defined in the city and the California Environmental Quality Act regulations, and therefore they need to be evaluated for environmental reasons together as a single project. Each separate discretionary application is not a project. And so that's a main reason. So when this comes before in the official environmental review, it could be challenged for violating that environmental regulation. Both of the applications have items that are unique to them. While decisions are being made of whether and when to build a parking structure at this location, there had been a publicly available restroom at the parking lot level that was removed. At that time, I also added to the administrative record that removal and its possible replacement are also part of this project. Many pedestrians, rich and poor,
housed and unhoused travel that route. And it shouldn't be required that if they need a bathroom, that they have to go to City Hall or they have to buy something at a retail establishment. So therefore, the ground level should have one or two public bathrooms that are accessible by anybody. If they're paid, required to be paid to use them, then as in the past, the food closet or the opportunity center could provide free tokens to people who are poor and need to use the restroom. But removing that restroom also violated the environmental and city regulations on projects because it should have been included in the environmental review here. In regard to the other parking lot, Lytton Kipling, I'll be proposing something there that could be accepted whether the existing project is built as planned and approved, or that the design professionals in this body suggest and approve or recommend a different project, or whether it remains as a parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any question to the public comments? To the public speaker? No, so you will have time for rebuttal. You will have 10 minutes for applicant rebuttal. Do you want to respond or?
I don't think I need to say anything. It's really for the city of Palo Alto to consider what was just said. Thanks.
There were some legal comments made. Perhaps the lawyer could address those.
Right.
Sure. Kyle Ariano, Chief Assistant City Attorney. So we can say that the city prepared and the City Council certified an EIR for the original Lot D garage back in 2019. Part of the contract for design services with the Watry firm for this project includes preparation of an addendum to that EIR. And based on that, we expect that all CEQA requirements will be met. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So.
Is there reality to the idea that this project somehow is connected to the other project that housing authorities proposing?
In the sense that all projects within the city are connected to one another, yes. But from the standpoint of environmental, from the standpoint of environmental impacts, no.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will close the public portion of this item, and we will return it to the board. So do we have any questions to the applicant? I think everyone has some, huh?
I would love to jump in here if that's all right.
Go ahead.
Morning, Mr. Hayes, how are you? Couple quick questions. In regards to the facade on Waverly, option 3, the rightmost portion of it seemed to be open and perforated. In theory, again, I understand that we're really trying to not focus on the future housing project because we don't know when or how that's going to be developed. But in theory, that perforated portion would then get closed. Is that correct? Because that portion would be on that right-hand side.
Correct. So there would have to be we'd have to address that, whoever is designing the housing, whether it stays incorporated and the housing steps back, or that edge goes away and you allow access at the ground. I'm assuming we still have access at the ground.
And then on that left-hand side where the copper perforation is, where it sort of peels back at the corner, that would be existing to remain, or would that have to be adjusted as well? Or is that sort of really unknown at this point?
In option 3 on the Waverly elevation,
Correct.
that would all go away.
All of it
So that
would
would be
go
a
away.
solid wall, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were asked to minimize the day 2 work that would need to be done. So option 1 and option 2 have less day 2 work than
Right.
option 3 would have, because that would have to be infilled.
Understood. And in all 3 of those options, you do have that copper perforation where it's peeling back at the grand staircase. It really does wrap that corner. And so even that portion of the facade would likely, again, we understand that this is sort of an unknown at this point, but
Right.
even that copper portion would go away.
As it returns, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
All right, and then I would like to put you on the spot here a little bit, and I apologize. With the concept of a bathroom at the ground level, was that ever considered? Is that something that is feasible? Is that something that's sort of not really in your scope? Would that require a ton of extra plumbing?
It wasn't in our scope. The original garage had a retail space that probably had a bathroom associated with it, but I don't think there was a public bathroom.
There's just that freestanding one that's been there for a while, but
Right.
that's been long gone now.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, that's it. Those are my only questions. Thank you.
If I may jump in, kind of similar follow-up questions, Ken, on particularly Kendra already asked the question of like against the new housing, but kind of follow up on that, even the perforated, like, because from the one plan that Christina had for the housing, it's up against that wall. So I assume this is like type 1 construction for the garage. And that the housing in the future would need the zero setback and like basically rated construction along that edge, correct?
Yeah, so what we have done in terms of the housing is just sort of planning study, right? Like what would be a feasible amount. I think we've got 45 feet off of the Waverly property line. And that interface between our building and that building would need to be a fire rated solid wall.
Right.
And then it was decided at council level to not share any circulation, that the garage would be independent circulation from the housing. So the housing would have 2 stairs, unless the law changes, and an elevator.
And then similarly, oh, sorry. Did you have a question, David? Or can I continue? Okay. On the Paseo sides as well, like I think it was like 10 to 16 feet distance, and you said it had to be 40% open. So does that impact the neighboring buildings as far as fire separation is concerned?
No, no. The property line, so we're 16 feet back from the property line. Yeah, and so there's no public alley there, but what the city is doing is they're creating an alley out of their property to allow for access behind those buildings. But there's no fire rating issue.
Okay.
So so the pedestrian passage is access to where? To the CVS at the back, or?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just trying to make the site's pretty porous right now, right? I mean, everybody can walk anywhere through that site. And so it was one of our priorities to try to keep that sort of variety of circulation. And so at that alley, if you walk down the Paseo from Waverly, you're in that Paseo alleyway leading to the entrance, but then you could turn right and you're connected, yes, to the alleyway lane 21 behind CVS. There's a lot, I mean, there's a lot of traffic there into CVS.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
My biggest issue really in this, the way in which this is developed, is that the entry egress from the garage itself is at a very, very busy part of the avenue. Across the street are postal boxes in the middle of the street, which tends to separate the people who are pulling up and putting mail into those boxes. Right to the right, as you exit the garage, you'll be facing a light at the corner, and it's only a few feet until you get to that position. The traffic that moves along the street in there is frequently congested. And coming out of that garage will be more limited visually. So, I mean, has the traffic department studied that access point as an appropriate location for the entry egress, in particular the egress from the garage?
So is that for me?
Either one of you.
In the prior application?
Yeah, in the prior application, our Office of Transportation has reviewed the entry and exit and felt it was an appropriate spot for it. It's basically the same spot that it is now, acknowledging that it is very busy.
I realize this project's come up before. This is the second round. But I don't know if I certainly didn't ask the question back then, the first time it came. But it remains with me that it seems to me to be not the best location. And Waverly would have been a much more appropriate entry to the garage. It would, in fact, I think if you examine the scheme of it all, be doable. Either if the end of the building there is kept open with a park, it would be a part of the park entry, I guess, and could sort of limit that. It might also affect the passage through from that location. We have about bike racks, et cetera, bike storage. And then that connects up to the CVS connection from the garage. I just wonder if you hadn't really thought it through that option would have been an open option to study.
Yeah, it's always, whether I was predisposed by the first project or what, but I've always thought that getting that entrance away from the Waverly intersection is a good thing. And so having it then more west down Hamilton achieves that. I've always thought of Waverly as the more pedestrian-focused street, or could be the more pedestrian-focused street. And so having a driveway cut, I know there's two there now, would be, I think the sidewalk and the amenities there would be better served without a driveway cut. And then now with the housing proposed for that parcel, the driveway coming through there, while it wouldn't be impossible to do, it would certainly limit the housing project a little bit in terms of how it's organized. And then because of transportation had no issues before, we assume
I do want to
it
note,
makes
though, that separate median on Hamilton for those kind of drive-through postal boxes is planned to be removed as part of this project. We had discussions previously with the post office about removing that from the public right-of-way.
Well, that's
so
good.
it
Yeah,
will clean up the whole street and the way it functions.
Okay, that was certainly part of my question there, because if you kept that lane open, that would help with at least one direction of the movement of the traffic. And it's the other way that's really the problem, however. It's coming into town from Hamilton there that really, at that intersection, I don't think you really should proceed with the project as designed unless you really study that intersection, especially with the 4 times the size of the in and out traffic at the garage. That's going to be a significant garage now in the number of vehicles that exit onto Hamilton. Without a proper traffic study, I think of this as a major issue. And therefore, that's why I'm suggesting it isn't my preference either for the pedestrianization of Waverly, but on the other hand, if that garage doesn't work properly and creates a problem with the traffic on Hamilton, I think it's a serious issue.
Yeah, I was just informed that on the EIR study previously, it addressed the traffic.
Yeah, it did have a traffic component, I believe a traffic study that will be, I'm sure, revisited as part of the addendum work for the increased parking count.
Okay, well, I hold
we'll
off
have
questions. I
answers.
don't really have anything of that major to discuss. What? I'm okay. I have some. Thanks.
Any other questions? Go ahead. I have questions relating to the facade studies on this. People have other general planning questions.
Yeah, I do have some planning, the circulation questions. So I know, like, for the existing condition, as David just mentioned, we have 2 access from 2 different roads, and also it also connected to the back, the alley lane, the service road at the back. So we have the electric room at the back. Is it on purpose to disconnect the garage to the back?
Correct, right.
Okay.
The The electric room is going to be considerable, given the EV requirement, the solar requirement, and then there'll be power that'll be brought in there for the housing component as well. So that room will be quite large. The transformers now, previously were proposed subgrade, below, and now the transformers will be above grade, and those transformers are going to go on the back side of that building there. And there's not enough room, nor did we want to introduce traffic into the alley system. It's a one-way alley out to Bryant Street, I think. It gets shut down with delivery trucks, and so you wouldn't want cars to try to exit thinking they could get out, and then they're going to sit there behind the delivery trucks and so on. It's not a good idea.
Okay. And for the trash room, is it for the adjacent property or it's for the?
Yeah, I'm going to punt that one to Holly.
So currently, we anticipate the existing restaurant Taipan, that building, I think it's 558, 560 Waverly. They currently place their trash receptacles in the parking lot because they don't have room on their property. So as part of the process, we'll be working with them to, establish an agreement for them to use that trash enclosure.
Okay, so.
But the other properties, the two properties kind of adjacent to the Paseo, do have room and currently store their trash receptacles within their property.
So they will use the Paseo to put up and down their trash bins to the trash room, is it correct?
Yes, the trash, green waste currently comes down lane 21 and makes that turn, so they will have to come get the trash receptacles from those two properties and take them up, partway up the Paseo.
Well, I'm calling the Paseo just the one leg that links Waverly to the main entrance. But what you're talking about is the return leg. Yeah.
The more traditional, I guess, alley.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And for the bike room, so that is designed for the long storage bikes for whom? Is it like a requirement for when we build a parking garage, or is the city's requirement just to want to add a long-term biking storage here?
And is it long-term or is it short-term parking for the bikes?
I thought it was both, but I'll defer to Watry's project designer, Gordon Knowles.
Good morning. My name's Gordon Knowles. I'm with Watry Design. The bike storage at the moment is shown as long-term storage. It's planned to be a kind of caged and locked area for long-term bike storage. There is no requirement to have bike storage within the garage because the garage is kind of, it doesn't generate a need for cycling. In the previous project, we did include it because it was seen as a good place to store bikes. And downtown, we had worked through how that was actually controlled and secured. It could either be an open area with lockable units inside, or actually the whole enclosure could be developed to be lockable and be on a permit system. But there's no actual code requirement. It just felt like a good city facility in this location.
Okay, thank you. Awesome.
Actually, I want to go back to Ken, if I can catch your attention on the Paseo. You're calling just the north-south or east-west, sorry. But the other side that does connect to the lane 21, that with all of, right now with everybody's trash, it's not the prettiest place to look at. And without this trash room accommodating the other two lots, it will kind of remain that way, right? So that the straight shot into the elevator stair area of the garage will be a little bit nicer, and then on the side that is perpendicular to Hamilton, parallel, thank you. So that area, you've got nice new planting, it looks like a bench, but then you're looking at trash on the other side, right? So is there any possibility for, the squiggle area to accommodate that so it's not a sea of dumpsters.
Right, so we do know that 526, which is here, was just redone. The whole back of that building has been redone. They've got their new trash and recycling facilities there. There are, facilities here, but they don't appear to be used, from what I can tell. These will be relocated to here, and it's really a city decision on how these are handled. And right now, this trash room is not large enough to handle all of this.
And it's not the city's responsibility to accommodate adjacent properties if they already have it, but maybe it's more of an enforcement that they actually
Yes.
use their trash rooms.
Yeah,
and
we've
not
had
leave
a couple
everything
meetings with our zero waste just in the last couple of weeks, and they're going to go talk to that property owner because they do have enclosures that would accommodate their receptacles, and it just doesn't seem to be them using them at the moment.
I just have one more quick question about circulation while we're looking at this page, if that's okay.
Could I squeeze one in here?
Sure, go ahead. Mine's very quick too, though.
Yeah, in which case, if you could, are you going to screen it off in some way so that any, those rather ugly metal garbage things would be behind something?
Hadn't thought of that. I mean, I suppose, you could do some kind of a screen there on our property line. That still allows them to have access out. Because the intent is for this to be a space that, people want to walk down through.
It will be used a lot.
Yes.
People who go into CVS, and that's quite a few people will use that, so. I think it's important to have that discussion, with the owners again and try to convince them that everything works in their favor here if they cooperate,
And no problem. And mine very brief. So basically, if somebody parks here in that spot and they're trying to get to CVS, because I grew up with this parking lot. I've spent a lot of time parking and walking and biking through this parking lot.
Yeah,
I'm very familiar with it.
I don't see an issue if we were to cut through like that.
Well, so that's sort of my question is you've got this nice pathway here, but it looks like there's a planter outside, so there's no exterior access. And again, not asking for it, just making sure I'm clarifying. So if somebody parks here, they would have to sort of walk that way to get to CVS. It would be sort of a loop, which, again, it's not saying that that's a deal breaker either way. I'm just sort of curious why the decision was made not to add sort of an end of the building ingress or egress.
Currently, you're correct. You would have to walk back down the drive aisle, out past the elevators and back up. So you're walking around and back on yourself.
It's not that far.
No. The reason we didn't add the access in there is the planter you're seeing is providing the C3 stormwater planting. And by splitting it, we then have to change how that drainage system connects and runs through. Having a continuous run means the system can operate as one facility rather than splitting it with two. And there's also an area we're trying to meet. Obviously, there's a very minimal floor plate with the garage taking up most of the area with the parking requirements and dimensions. So we're kind of getting that C3 facility in. So we can certainly look at the option of coming through. The access we have for the electrical room there could form an exit. So we could look at the balance of what C3 facility we need. And if we can get the right area, we can certainly look at adding a pedestrian route in there.
And I think you answered my question, and it's actually the part two of that was going to be why wouldn't the trash go that direction towards the two restaurants? But no, this makes perfect sense. I think that's well thought through, so no complaints. Thank you.
That was the direction the trash enclosure looked at previously in the other scheme. And while that still would work, and the C3 again is another item, also the movement of the trash collection vehicles and then pulling them out, it's actually easier for those to be moved out to the north and coming round the corner.
All right, then I'll jump in and ask about the facades. It's rare that we actually get options to review, but I'd like to hear from you, Ken, what would your preference be?
Two.
And elaborate on why?
I'm sorry, why?
And elaborate on why, please.
How come I can't get my, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I mean, although, I kind of like the rhythm in option one, I think it makes the shear wall, so we need a shear wall that's at least 20 feet on that edge, and there are some pretty severe restrictions about where it can go according to the structural team. And so we're limited, it can't go any closer than that to the stair on the right. It works in the middle, and then we didn't see it, we didn't see it moving any further to the left. I like the idea of option two because it simplifies the composition. It kind of takes all the fins and puts them in one place, so that kind of is a singular statement of the terracotta. The fins are supposed to pick up on the terracotta of the tile, of the tile roof. And then there's some brick. There's lots of brick, in fact, as you move to the left down Hamilton. And I like the larger sort of equal kind of termination of this screen, and it's somewhat similar to this screen here. One thing that's not shown in this elevation that was shown here is that you see these creases. We didn't really develop that idea yet, but thought that, and maybe with the artists, those metal perforated panels could start to feel like they have a volume kind of behind them, just a little more interesting. As you drive down the street, you'd be able to see that, perhaps sticking out some, and to get your attention to where you're supposed to pull in. And then I thought option three was just a little bit too broken up. I didn't necessarily think that there was anything wrong with kind of expressing the height of the garage, but if we're concerned about that, the horizontal elements there start to break that down a little bit. The ground floor would be identical. Along this ground floor, there's a number of entrances, actually, that you can't see here. Like you can walk into the garage here, you can walk into the garage here, and behind this wall, there'd be metal screens with the plants on them, and the metal work, the grill work is, again, supposed to be reminiscent of trying to pick up some of the detail of the post office across the street without trying to, copy it. Obviously, this doesn't look like the post office. And then the handicap spaces, I believe, or the accessible stalls are right in that first row of parking right there. Did you have a different preference? I would like feedback on 1, 2, 3.
Actually, I agree with you. That was seems like the most cohesive composition of the three. Follow-up question on that is on option one, as far as the concrete expressions are concerned. You have this on 1 and 2, but then this on 3.
Right. So the board form will be on all of them.
Okay.
All right, so there's going to be the board form, the planters down low, the structure that's exposed that you see. Where we have panels like this panel here, or the panels that are on the Waverly side, we either select, we select one of them. I wouldn't see both those patterns, and thought that the kind of liquid-looking state of the concrete, it almost looks like printed concrete. I thought that was kind of an interesting pattern, and Watry, the design team, was on board with that as well.
Have you used, or you were Watry used this form liner before? Because form liners are hard to get.
I know.
Perfect.
I know.
And this has a
I
lot
don't know,
of recesses.
have you used those before? No.
I think the most recent form liner we've used was the Calav parking structure, where we used just a more typical board form form liner to give the impression of the older kind of board forms. These can be very successful. They just need attention to detail and getting a good contracting team who are used to concrete work. The advantage we have with parking structures often is they are concrete structures, and garage specialist contractors tend to have a little bit more focus on that concrete. So that's why we're fairly comfortable in suggesting some of these form liner approaches.
And would it be precast or cast in place or shotcrete?
These at the moment would be cast in place. Okay. The garage itself is it's a long span structure, which is typical for parking structures, post-tensioned. That's generally a kind of cast in place approach, particularly with the shear walls. They could be precast, but precast comes with a raft of other requirements with T's and beams and such, which would impact the openness. As Ken said, we're quite tight on the openness for the garage, with the kind of east and west elevations being defined as closed.
And that's very helpful. Yeah, I've only used this kind, which is hard enough to do. So while these are very intriguing and I think would make the building look really beautiful, I would just urge you to test it out.
Yeah,
before
so I think that, that's conceptual. We'd like to use a pattern, and I think the next step is if it's, I know you can't make opinions or give direction today, but if we're on board, then I think we would dig a little bit deeper, either get photographs of installed works or get a sample. I'm not always supportive of the board-formed liners, the board-formed form liners. I'd rather do board form because it looks a lot better. So I don't know how these come out, but.
Thank you.
So on the elevations for the metal vertical fins, is it only applied along the Hamilton Avenue, and for all the other side, it will be the black louver thing?
That's correct. So the only place we're using the louvers, I'm sorry, the fins, is on the Hamilton facade. We're thinking that on the Waverly facade, that's going to go away eventually, and that would be too much expense to remove it for day two. And on the Paseo, we have more of an open look with wires, and the intent is to try to get vegetation to grow up there, so we do not have the fins along there.
Okay. And what is the depth of the fins? From the rendering, it seems like it's pretty deep.
Are they, Terry, the fins are 12? Yeah. Yeah, and I'd like a denser density than the Cal Ave garage. So more frequency than the Cal Ave garage, because there's just not quite enough there. Reed's a little bit too transparent.
But you can still see the openness of the facade.
Yeah, but when you're walking down the street, you'll have,
Gotcha.
it'll sort of reveal itself.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions for the materials?
Yeah. Kind of a more general question about the facade. I really like the design, from 2018.
Okay.
And I think, what I'm, struggling a little bit is, we don't really have a timeline for this, temporary housing and the plaza. So I think it's important to make the Waverly facade aesthetically pleasant, because it might be there for a long time, like we don't know how long, might be forever. And then also, along those lines, Waverly Street is the restaurant is only 2 stories, and like basically that entire street is low rise. And in the 2018, version, you only had, I think 5 stories, and now you have 6. So, so for me, like, your building increased and kind of the design decreased. It's kind of a double whammy. And then, similar, along the similar lines, I think the design of the plaza, I think I think it's not very pleasant. The way you described it, they're gonna put new asphalt and you're gonna paint it, and somebody's gonna put like new benches, and you have some photos of the benches here in a document. Like, it really feels temporary. So, so I think for me, the Waverly Street is I think it's could be thought of more. I think the Hamilton Avenue, your option 2, I think that's fine. I think we all agree that that's the best one, and I think if that's permanent, it's fine. But for me, Waverly could be improved. And like what I like in 2018 is I really like those. You are going to.
Yeah, I'll go back.
Is what at the bottom right, what I really like here is, I like those four, vertical white kind of columns. I really like the open, open feel of the garage. I also like the first floor, with the stores, of course, it's not a possibility. Like, you're probably, trying to work here with shear walls in the new design. But you were able to do this one without shear walls. So maybe a more open design could work. Maybe some more thoughtful landscaping with trees, maybe not only just in planters, but, planted into the ground. Okay. And then I think also the, yeah. Maybe it's just a perspective here, but like even the tops, the top floor in your rendering here kind of looks more light and airy, as opposed to what you are proposing now. Now that I see it, might be just a rendering.
I think it's just the rendering.
It's just a rendering. So yeah, so I think a more open design would be better.
On Waverly.
On Waverly, a more, landscaping that looks, less temporary. Like, like I'm just looking again on, here. Yeah. There are those concrete boxes along the wall, the concrete planters. They're painted like orange. I mean, it looks very temporary. Like I'm looking at this plaza here as a public space. I think Palo Alto, has like really nice public spaces. Like this would not be one of them. So like, can we make it kind of more like Palo Alto?
Okay.
So that would be.
Yeah, Gordon would like just 1 second. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just to give you some input on the shear walls and the structure. With us adapting the floor plate from the previous design, we limit the amount of shear wall that we now have available that doesn't block the drive aisles. We also have this shear wall at the end in anticipation, as you say, we don't have a planned date for the residential area, but we need that shear element, and this is a way of actually creating that fire separation that we spoke about earlier. I understand what you're saying about the openness. I think the example here we have on the screen is where Ken and our team have been trying to get some of that openness back, where we're keeping the bays that don't need to be shear walls more open to try and get as you say, express that kind of more open end that we had previously. So this option 3 of Waverly is trying to get that part way there. I completely understand what you're saying. We've also had a change in code for structural elements, which mean that depending on the width, they now need to be deeper, depending on the height of them as well. So we've had a few more restrictions with floor plan and structural regulation that has kind of driven where we are. But what we were hoping to show you here is something that we're attempting to get back. I think we can do things as well where we can express something more in that shear wall to give you a little bit more articulation that's similar to what you were saying you were liking from the previous one. I just wanted to give you a little bit more background on why this design has changed.
Yeah, maybe because there seems to be two walls here that are, maybe you can reduce to one. Also, and I mean the shear wall, I get the point, but it's almost like the tail is wagging the dog. Like we should figure out an architectural design that we like, and then we figure out, the way how to make it work structurally. Rather than kind of locking in on a construction methodology and then just kind of figuring out what is the least worst architectural design like. So I think I would kind of probably try to approach it that way.
Completely understand. Yeah, I think what the driver here is possibly less the structure. It's more the vehicular circulation. Being the parking garage, we've got a very limited floor plate, and garages by their very nature are very functional beasts. So it's getting that function to work to maximize the parking. That kind of then limits the structure, and they all need to be developed in combination. I think you're correct. We can't leave one leaning at the end. They need to be a symbiotic kind of combination of the three. So we can certainly look at the structure again. and see if we can address anything there.
Yeah, could I jump in here? Yeah. Because I actually think it's better to have somewhat of a solid end, and I'll speak to it a little bit more. But I don't like the idea of having it open with looking at all the car traffic and whatever you see through it. It doesn't make a pleasant, wouldn't make a pleasant ending of the building. I'm having, I had the initial problem, and I continue to have it, that the circulation, I think, is a major issue. And the traffic study, I still think, is a major issue, even after all of our discussions about it. But the other problem I have aesthetically is, of course, that the AT&T building is really ugly. And unfortunate. I wish we could deal with that one at the same time. But the massing here, I thought about it, and it certainly is better, actually, when it's a shorter building the way it is, with the possibility of something happening at that corner. And I really like the way in which the screen opens up at the end.
Good.
So that would limit the housing, so I hope maybe the housing goes away. Because to look at this and make any decision about it requires us seeing what the hell that corner is going to be with housing at it. It doesn't seem to lend itself as a size of a housing site to be appropriate for the housing in the first place, because sort of two of the walls are not even usable for light and air. So I hope maybe the council finds another place. They're already working on another place, so maybe that would be enough for the beginning of affordable housing in the city. In terms of in the corner, it seems to me that there are other ways to deal with that wall. We've had a really good example of that with what's the model of the car project that we on
Tesla?
Anyhow, the vegetable wall. You don't know it? Have you been down to the?
I believe you're referring to the Mercedes-Benz.
Mercedes-Benz, thank you. Have you been to the Mercedes-Benz? Go take a look at the wall of the Mercedes-Benz. It's really, really beautiful.
Is it a planted wall?
Planted wall. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe it doesn't have to go all the way up, but certainly it's a better way of just rather than putting planters at the bottom, you could build a whole wall of growing things. Maybe not all the way up because it might be hard to maintain it, but a certain way up, and it could be a terrific background to that and soften the aspect of that as well. But I would say that if you are looking for anything from us, is let's see what the board can say that we would support not having the housing there, instead having a somewhat public area, and that would reduce the volume and make it a much more reasonable structure, so you're not extending the full length of the block and cramming our cars in there. Now, I'm wondering, does it maybe misread the drawings? Is there a cellar to this project?
No, there's no below-grade parking.
Yeah.
No, that was eliminated. The original 2019 project had one below, five above.
What's the reason for that?
Expense. It's too expensive.
Too expensive? That's the reason?
I think any excavation into the ground, particularly for garages, is, I think, up to 4 times the cost of stalls that you would have above grade. I think also in Palo Alto, we have the issue of needing cut-off walls and treatment of any groundwater that comes out because of the plume that sits below Palo Alto because of the old HP facilities. So it brings in both.
There's a plume on this site?
I need to check that. There certainly was in some of the other buildings in the water table and such. So
I don't think so.
I think it's still a city requirement that we need cut-off walls, the excavation as well, and the proximity. I think last time we were looking at it, the foundations and the underpinning that we need to do to the AT&T building adjacent to it, because we're only 4 foot away from that. Going down a basement puts our foundation below the level of their foundation, brings in.
They don't have a cellar in that building?
They do not at that edge. So we would be, where we would be deeper than the edge of their foundation. And some of the expense there is actually getting our shear wall foundation. The shear walls tend to have a very big foundation because of the turning moments. And that would be then needing to tie up below the adjacent foundation. And that's that kind of a little bit more detail than you probably need, but that's part of the expense.
Been there, done that.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure. Thank you.
Not good. I'm okay with that explanation, of course. It would come out eventually anyhow, so. But I do think that if we could, as a board, agree that looking at the whole facade of the Hamilton side there, and the size of the building next door and the mass of the building next door, let's not go all the way to let's recommend to the council not to use that corner as a part of the garage, but rather to keep it as an open landscape.
The council is trying to use it as housing, is the objective.
Yeah, but it's kind of a ridiculous place for a small amount of housing that you're going to get on a particular site like that. So I think it's kind of not a reasonable thought to have that. And that I know we're not supposed to make a recommendation, but I feel rather strong that the garage should stop at that point where it is. Do you agree, board?
Oh, it's not working?
Thank you. So before any final thoughts, so is there any additional questions to the plaza design? So I saw you have some different options for the plaza. So is it based on different budget or?
The plaza, sorry, the last slide in the there we go. Those were the two options that we explored other options, but these were, like a skate park, and just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Plus, it might be difficult if you provide something like that, how do you take it away in the future? And so we thought of it as more of a pop-up. What I'm hearing from some of the members is that park, whether it's going to go away and persist, or whether it's going to go away, needs to be more thoughtfully designed as something that could stay there for a very long time. And then also the side of the garage that faces that parklet should be considered, maybe in terms of, more in terms of long-term versus how the housing will fit on it now, something.
I do have a question actually on the park, because the option on the right is not in our packet if I.
It's not? Oh, didn't print.
Yeah, so it seems like the options in the packet and the fourth one are kind of increasing amount of work and cost. So I think a very good question about, is it cost related? And given that we do not know when and if this housing will get built, I guess for the city, the question, like, is a preference from the owner side to be as minimally expensive, hoping for, near term, 3 to 5 years for the housing, or are we looking at this maybe for, 5, 10, 15 years?
So I think we're trying to strike a balance because we don't know the timeline for the affordable housing project. We just wanted to provide different options. What we don't want to do is install something so permanent that people are upset when it gets removed. So, and we wanted to provide flexibility in the use of that area. So these are the options. We haven't really analyzed cost yet. And we talked about a skate park, that kind of thing, and we just thought that's probably not a good idea at this location. So right now, we just want feedback on what you think would be a good idea for that space.
Because the same applies to the elevations that David was talking about as well, because option 3 is the most open on the elevations, but if it's in 5 years, all of that expensive metal has to come out and filled with concrete wall, it doesn't make sense. But if
Yeah.
it's there for 15, 20 years, it does make more sense to have a slightly open, more feeling elevation on that side.
Correct.
It's a little difficult for us to comment without that.
Agreed. As a city staff person, I would say the least amount of day 2 work that we have to do would be better, just for work-wise and capital cost-wise, because then we're going to have to program funding and another project later down the line to make this ready for an affordable housing project. However, we know, again, it's a balance of the timing of the future project.
So I guess question for the applicant, I know like the initial thought on the paving is like patch the existing asphalt and then do something with that surface. It's a day 1 versus day 2 cost, but did you guys consider actually removing more of the asphalt and have more planting, which you don't have to demo like as much hardscape later? Was that a consideration?
Well, I mean, there's also a way to, if you plant it, to, you could reuse the, trees and that sort of thing, depending on maybe how you plant them or whether they're in raised planters or something. We were just being very cost conscious, I think, with the landscape architect and trying to avoid costs that we know we'll be throwing away once it comes out, but we don't know for certain that time frame. I've been in some nice, asphalt pop-up parks in San Francisco, down in Hayes Valley. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Hayes Valley,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah. I wish.
Yes, they're very interesting. I mean, they're little playgrounds, and
Right.
and they are
Right.
incredibly
They're
used. Yeah.
Very well used. And so that's what I was thinking it's not my idea, it's the landscape architect's idea. But yeah, that's the reference I had in mind, or the Hayes Valley. Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll go into comments, but it's just, it's tough for us because of the unknown timeline.
But again, if we could say that that corner is a very important part of this project here and really sort of connects all the floors with an outdoor space that you would experience as your way coming down that staircase, and let's not forget, I mean, it really sort of takes away a bit of a corner of a building, which is kind of makes it all very light looking now too. Aesthetically, I think it's a terrific idea. I would hate to see it lost.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we will just move on to our comment session. So David, do you have any other thoughts for this?
I'm a bit concerned about the height of the top part of it and the heaviness of the edge up there projecting. Also, the front elevation, the building is really out as far as it can go, which sort of minimizes the sidewalk on the front of the building.
Yeah, we're trying to maintain a 12-foot sidewalk. I guess you can look there. I mean, there's not a lot of distance here. I mean, I think the paseo is important, and 10 feet allows us to have the openings on this side. Then you basically have the structure, requirements for the ramp, the structure, the 60 feet, the structure, and boom, we've got 2 feet to the property line.
I'm wondering, Ken, to interrupt you just a minute here, is the paseo has to be 10 feet? I mean, you're putting a little planting down an area, you know?
Openings would be 10 feet, right?
Yes, 10 feet is required to allow us to have an open facade. If we reduce it below than 10 feet, we wouldn't be able to count that facade as open, and we wouldn't be able to meet our openness requirements with the 20% and 40% perimeter. We're kind of restricted because of the solid wall to the AT&T building, which takes a lot of the building perimeter away. So that 10-foot is really a requirement to have openings that aren't then fire protected or limited in size.
You have a fire separation between the two buildings. If you had more of an open space, because AT&T moves in and out a little bit there. The back of the building, I believe, is back, not on the property line quite as it is in the middle.
We need to be 10 feet from our property line, and unfortunately, yes, their
So
building
there's
does
no-
step outside of that. I understand.
see. Okay.
It does, as you say, weave further away,
Yeah.
but it moves away inside their site rather than at our site.
Has to be 10 feet.
10 feet from our property line, yes.
Well, that's really limiting, isn't it?
Very, yes.
We are moving the curb line. The curb line is moving out into Hamilton, so,
Yes, I know, because
Okay.
it can.
because it can, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Kendra, you want to comment, or Melissa?
Yeah, and to the applicant, I think we are in comments now fully, so you guys can sit and we'll stop harassing you for the moment. I find myself, I feel like I'm a little out on a ledge here because I really like this project. I think it's actually exceptionally well done. I really appreciated your presentation. I really liked how you walked us through the setbacks. You explained the constraints of the site, of everything very, very clearly. So I was a big fan of this, and actually it was funny because when I was reviewing it at home, I was like, this is a really nice parking structure, and then we realized it was Ken Hayes, and I was like, oh, that makes sense, okay, perfect. But I admit, I didn't know it was your work when I was first reviewing it. I thought it was extremely well thought out. I really liked the designs. I liked all three of the options, any one of them, and I'd be, very content as a person who's, lived in Palo Alto my whole life, who's serving on ARB. I think they're all beautifully designed. If I had to vote for one, just because that was a question, I did like option 3 the best. I sort of liked the vertical or the horizontal striations through the fins, but again, option 2, right there next to it, they're neck and neck for me, so it really could be either way. I actually had a pretty strong preference for option 3 on the Waverly side. Understanding the constraints of the potential future housing to come, also understanding the constraints of how long some of these projects take. We have seen projects, and looking at Palo Alto sideways a little bit here, they can take a minute. And so to assume that this thing will be up and running in 2 years is a little bit delusional in my mind. So I would assume that we're at a 5-year timeline, possibly even longer. So I would encourage that Waverly side really is a beautiful facade. I really do like that openness that corner provides. It provides a lot of light into that area. It makes that whole Paseo side feel really very different than if that's going to be a solid facade on that side. I loved David's idea of potentially incorporating more planting though. So where those 2 solid panels are sort of moving up vertically, if there was a way to grow some ivy up there, something like that, that could be a very beautiful way to also soften that facade and reinforce the landscape that's going on in that plaza. I think that and again, I'm sorry to argue with David on this one, I think that the Waverly entrance is actually the right spot. I think that how you have it designed is the best, excuse me, thank you, Hamilton, is sort of the appropriate in and out. Again, using that parking lot my entire life, that Waverly side has always been tricky because it's too close to the intersection. You've got people trying to turn right, turn left, going in and crossing through that intersection. So to try and enter this parcel from that close proximity to the intersection feels inappropriate in my mind. I like the fact that you pushed it as far away as possible. Also, there's just very limited sort of ingress and egress going down that Hamilton portion anyway. The biggest traffic component there is the post office, right? And they've got their little outlet for their drive area, right? All of that. So there is that cross street there, but it's pretty limited in its traffic. There's just not a lot of cars going in and out of that side street, which is, sorry, looking at this, Gilman. There's just not a lot of traffic there. So I think that the entrance on Hamilton is very appropriate. I also wanted to say so I talked about those different options, the entrance, the landscape plaza is sort of my least favorite portion of the project. I like the idea of it. I like putting some effort into it. I can't say that I fully understand the intent. The colored circles on the floor just aren't sort of resonating enough for me to fully understand. I like the pattern. I like sort of the conceptual. I would just like to see it fleshed out a little bit more. And then my other concern is with wooden benches, you know, if they're lasting 5 to 10 years, or is it better to be potentially a different material? So that would be my biggest concerns there. I would just want to see it taken to the next level for that landscape. And again, I like the idea of the concept, the pop-up parks, things like that. We see that in Los Altos, downtown Los Altos from time to time, where they close off a block, throw out some AstroTurf and put some blocks out for the kids to play with. Those things can be really effective at sort of bringing a community together and creating a really nice space for people to be. So overall, I'm a big fan of the project. Again, just to reiterate, I liked option 3 the best on both facades. Option 2 is great also on the Hamilton side, though. I like the location of it. And then the one final comment is if there's the possibility for a public bathroom, makes sense. But again, it's also not a make or break in my mind. So that's it for me. Thanks very much. I appreciate the presentation.
I can go next. Thank you again for a presentation and all the thoughtful responses, both from the city and the applicant. I think I'm with Ken on the elevation too, as far as the Hamilton side is concerned. The extra horizontal seems tacked on, and it kind of is, and not very necessary for scale of the building. I do worry about the corner, though, with the future housing. I really like the kind of the welcome triangle expression in the corner, but when the housing comes next to it, and I do worry that it's going to need to be blocked off and not as successful. So just urge you to think about, you know, that day 2 version of what that might look like. I am with Kendra on the Waverly side. Like, it's not just the elevation with having that one side open, but also I think just the light in the garage. Usually, a lot of times you go into a garage and it feels very dark and scary. And I think just having that one elevation be more open will really help. And knowing that in the future, it might have to be closed off for if the housing does happen. David, I hate to not agree with you, but I think the housing would be a nice thing on this street. In the future, like the scale of the buildings down the street are smaller, and I think a housing scale in that instead of the plaza and the need for housing both really reinforce the need for that. But in the day 1 version, the plaza, I really feel like it needs to have more greenery. Vine on the wall would be great, but also like more of like that whole street area, it's not very heavily landscaped, it's not very green, and I think this is an opportunity to have on-grade planting of trees and more of landscape with space for, I mean, it's a pretty large space left over, so like I think it can have more denser planting and still have some plaza left over, and I think if that's kind of the permanent state, like in your angle view render that shows that it feels very sparse, the plaza, and I really feel like it could do more. My last comment is about the non-Paseo side. I think I'd really urge you to think about whether it's even like a standalone wall or a fence with some planting against that trash enclosure, unused trash enclosure. I think it will make that walkway much more pleasant, and it will be a pretty frequently used cut through. So I think just thinking of it on the garage side, it feels very pleasant with all that landscaping, but the opposite side, which is really your property line, just think about how to make that more pleasant. And thank you so much for a very thoughtful design. I'm with Kendra, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, we will be just down the road. So thank you so much for your presentation. I have to say it is a very beautiful and elegant garage design. And thank you so much. So I do like the materials you choose. And also I think the corner, the tower element, the perforated metal panel wrap around the corner really make that entrance to be very excited and attract people to go into the garage, I think. And also the flared stair is also looks very welcoming, and also the ground level looks pedestrian friendly. However, I share the concern David mentioned about like the in and out the garage. Although just look at the garage design itself, I think the current entrance, it makes sense. But what concerned me is about the overall, and down the road, there is a street light that is just right on the property line of this garage. So even with the current surface parking condition, there is always, it's easily like during the peak hours, like lunchtime or at night, there could be a couple of cars just piled up in the parking garage. So with the increased number of parking in the parking garage, there could be an issue to just have a long queuing line within the garage. So I think there could be some traffic studies with along the street to see whether, I don't know whether it is necessary to have to remove the light there.
Yes. Good idea.
Just a follow-up, are you talking about the traffic signal at Gilman?
Along the Hellman between, I think it's right between the AT&T and this building here.
Okay,
Yeah, right.
all right, thanks.
Okay. And also for the alleyway that towards the CVS, I think there could be something down to make the experience much nicer. I'm not sure whether it is feasible to just flip the pedestrian way versus the planter, so that the planter could be along the restaurant side, and then have some buffer zone between the restaurant and the garage. And then the pedestrian experience would still be the same. You can still feel the landscape, the greenery. However, it is further down from the trash bins next door. As far as the facade elevations, I do like the option 2 better. And for the other side, facing the Waverly, I think I like the openness of the option 3. However, it also depends on the timeline of the affordable housing. Speaking of the affordable housing, I agree with Vice Chair Adcock that this is a perfect location for the housing. However, for the size of the it left over, I'm not sure like whether it is good, because it would be sad to block the corner tower element. It has the excitement there, and everybody loved the design to have the perforated panel wrap around the corner and everybody can see it. However, if in the future we have the residential building block that one and we have to remove it, then the garage would look different, and it's just hiding behind the residential units. So I think it's kind of sad. So with that in mind, I don't know whether, if there is no base requirement for the parking stalls, is it possible actually to make the parking garage smaller and then leave more open space for the future housing, and then we can make the residential to still set back, leave the corner open? That's my comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I also like the project a lot. It's very, very pretty. I like the corner design and the materials. In terms of the additional housing, I don't really have a preference whether there's additional housing or not. Probably having more housing is better, but then I'm really worried how the corner of this garage might look like. So I think also from a kind of future approval standpoint, like I don't know how we can approve something if you don't know how it's going to look in the future, because maybe we are approving the project because we like the corner, because that's exactly what you will destroy in the future. So maybe it might be a good idea to bring some designs that actually include the exterior of the potential housing, I mean, don't go like overboard with, spending too much time, but at least getting a better feel how it might look like, because the garage might not look good at that point. Because I think that's a big attraction of this garage, that corner. Yeah, like it's really cool. Also the staircase, how it's kind of tapered. If I see correctly, it's like wider in the, that's a coolness factor. I think kind of a lot of the buildings that, that are submitted to us, they look like it's designed in like PowerPoint. Like this like, somebody, went in there with an artistic mind, and I really appreciate that. So, I would like to preserve it. Yeah, and then at the same time, I think, it would be good to have design the wall on Waverly with more permanence in mind. And whether it's more open or not, like, you can think about it with the same artistic mindset that you have, but how would it look like if it was permanent? Yeah, let's make the public plaza more welcoming. And I think you can have a lot of ideas what that that would look like. I don't want to bias in either way. I think I would be supportive of a toilet. It's a city property. We are serving the public, and I think it's just one of those things. And it feels like we are taking away more and more amenities from citizens. We are removing public garbage containers, things like that. So, just make the city more kind of livable. And then finally, a final comment, and this is more for the planning department and the ARB. Like, I noticed that the cost that we are creating about 103 net parking spaces, if we take into account the 86 that are being replaced, the 52 that are being replaced from Lot T, and the 25 that might be dedicated to the new housing. So we are spending over $20 million on creating 103 net new parking spaces, over $200,000 per parking space. I think it's extremely high cost. On the one hand, and on the other hand, in my short time on the ARB, I have seen, a number of projects in downtown where I think we are very lenient on the parking spaces. We are approving projects that take parking spaces away from the street. We are approving exceptions on parking spaces in the garages. So basically, what the city is doing, instead of making developers build the parking spaces that they require, we are subsidizing those developments by building parking spaces at a cost of $200,000 per stall. So, I just want to put that out there. It's just something to think about, because clearly parking is a problem in downtown. So we are paying the cost, the taxpayer is paying the cost.
Boy, that's interesting. And good thinking. Thank you for that. So yeah, all of my issues have been answered, including the last one. I think, Ging Si, you had the right idea, that take away that light, that signal. We really I don't think need it, because in Gilman is a one block, that's all it is, and you don't really have that much traffic coming out. There's ways of getting in and out of it from right out here across the street, in and out of the parking lot, get rid of the damn light, and then the traffic will flow much better. And that makes the entry and exit, where I was complaining about before, acceptable. And in terms of the corner of the building, everybody here loves the corner. So if it eliminates the possibility, because the site is getting so tiny there, of a housing project, there must be some other area in the city we can find for housing that's more reasonable, and not so costly, too. That's a very good point. So thanks, Ken. It was a very, very nice design. We all agree, and we wait for it to happen.
Okay, if no more additional thoughts, then we will just close this item. Thank you very much. And we will take an 8-minute break, and we will come back at 10:30. Thank you. Shall we start? Okay. Okay, welcome back. So we're moving on to our next item, which is a public hearing quasi-judicial. 3606 El Camino Real, consideration of a major architectural review application to demolish multiple commercial and residential buildings located at 3508, 3516, 3626 to 3632 El Camino Real and 524, 528, 530 Kendall Avenue, and construction of a 7-story multifamily residential housing development project with 321 units, 13% of which would be provided at a rate affordable to low income. Staff recommend ARB to review and provide initial comments. Any disclosures? I visited the site.
I visited the site.
Yep, visited the site.
Same.
Same.
All right, so let's move on to staff presentation.
All right, well, good morning, and let's take a trip to 3606 El Camino. To orient ourselves here, the project is on El Camino between Kendall and Matadero Avenue. The zoning is for the 7 lots, so those are neighborhood commercial, service commercial, and RM30 and RM40, which are medium density multiple family residential districts. Some adjacent uses surrounding the site are commercial and residential, with some of those lower density residential at the rear of the property and more of the commercial uses centered along the El Camino Real corridor. And just for that zoning here, I pulled an image of that zoning map to see those applicable districts on that project site. As for background and kind of how exactly we got here today, on February 15th of 2024, a Senate Bill or SB 330 pre-application was submitted to the city. Following that, on June 10th, 2025, a major architectural review application as well as a vesting tentative map, not for condominium purposes, just for a lot merger, was submitted to the city. And following in September 22nd of this year, the applicant requested consideration under new legislation, which is the Assembly Bill 130, detailed there on the Public Resources Code section, for a more streamlined approach to CEQA analysis and environmental review. And we're here at the December 4th meeting, and following this, with some other details that I'll describe in some further slides, tentatively going to council in early 2026 for a decision or recommendation on the project. Some high overview of the project. It would be to demolish approximately 13,000 square feet of commercial floor area across 7 parcels. There is a vacant parcel centered in the center of the project site, and there's 38 residential units that are currently there. Those would be removed to make way for the 321 units. So as detailed on those project plans, those range in size from what's a studio or a junior bedroom, detailed on the plans. That would be 54 units, 109 units for a 1-bedroom, 119 units for 2 bedrooms, and 39 units for a 3-bedroom. And of those 321 units, 37 would be required to be provided with that new legislation, meeting the 13% minimum BMR affordable at 50 to 80% of the area median income. And with that, this project is located in the El Camino Real focus area, which affords some reduced parking spaces. That would be 1 parking space per unit. And currently being proposed is 321 EV parking spaces for each of those units, 45 of which will be tandem, and a total of 391 parking spaces would be provided, so in excess of that zoning requirement. 280 bicycle spaces, as noted before, a vesting tentative map for the lot merger, and some tree removals. So for framing the discussion here, I just kind of wanted to list out some constraints within the state law. So this is a builder's remedy project that's defined in that Assembly Bill 1893, or builder's remedy 2.0, if you will. The project may not be denied based on an inconsistency with the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan land use, and the city may only require compliance with objective standards that say would apply to the project if it were proposed on a site that allows the requested density. So in this case, that would be the El Camino Real focus area standards. Further, on that note, the project is proposing a 3.49 to 1 overall FAR and 121 or 128, should I say, dwelling units per acre density for that project site, and that would be permitted within the El Camino Real focus area. Under the state density bonus law, the applicant can be afforded to request waivers from applicable standards that would, say, physically prevent the project from being built at that permitted density. That could be anything from a request to go above the height limit, anything from floor area, open space, some of those other standards. And since the applicant did request in September to be processed or invoke, should I say, AB 130, that further exempts infill housing projects from CEQA, and it sets some strict timelines for the city for review and decision. And I walk through that a little bit further in the presentation. But to go through some of the plans here, here is the existing conditions of that project site. So prominently in the center is the vacant lot. We have up towards what's on the screen, say the left-hand corner, a former garage, and some residential units at the bottom of the screen. And the proposed site plan. And moving on to floor 1 of the building with the legend on that left-hand side of some of the leasing and amenity areas, fronting El Camino Real with the at-grade parking garage towards the rear. 2 entrances would be located on either side of the project, one at Matadero and one at Kendall. And as we move up through the building to floor 2, the garage continues. We have a 2-story space for that amenities open to below. Onto floor 3, where we get into some of these units and the podium open space, as well as a pool. Floor 4, floor 5, floor 6, and floor 7 with a amenity space at that top left-hand corner. And the roof plan. And as noted before, the project is coming in actually under the height limit for the El Camino Real focus area. That's at 85 feet. As proposed and indicated on the plans, it's proposed at 84 feet. For some elevations here, we have the frontage on El Camino Real, the northern elevation. The eastern elevation along Kendall Avenue, noting the existing 2-story residential buildings at that left-hand corner. The southern elevation and the western elevation at Matadero Avenue with the other entrance to the garage and those existing 2-story residential buildings. We have some renderings here. So this is the corner of El Camino Real and Matadero. And the other corner of the proposed project at El Camino Real and Kendall. So to kind of frame the discussion this morning, just noting again, this is a builder's remedy project. The project may not be denied on the basis of inconsistency with zoning ordinance or comprehensive land use designation. the project is afforded waivers and concessions from applicable standards should the applicant find that it would preclude the density on the site. And as provided and detailed in the staff report, for informational purposes only, was a detailed analysis of conformance with some applicable standards should the project be, say, submitted regularly and not a builder's remedy. So that would be the El Camino Real Focus Area Development Standards, Objective Design Standards, and the El Camino Real Design Guidelines as well. As for CEQA status, the city is still evaluating the project's eligibility for processing in accordance with that new Assembly Bill 130. And just for a little bit more detail on that, that is a new legislation that exempts infill housing projects that meet certain criteria from CEQA and sets kind of some fast timelines. The city did start the consultation process with tribal consultation process, should I say, and we did receive requests from 2 tribes in the area, and that is currently underway. Following, say, for a timeline of the project, once tribal consultation is complete, the city would have 30 days to make a decision on the project. So it's a very fast timeline for review. For the recommendation here, provide some initial comments on the design and perhaps identify some areas so that the design could either be improved or items could be perhaps tweaked, but just keeping in mind that the project cannot be denied based on inconsistencies with the zoning code. So, and with that, I can entertain any questions and happy to bring up the plan sets and walk through those in further detail.
Thank you very much. Any questions to the staff? So I have a question about the timeline. So could you please share with us about the timeline? You also mentioned like the 30 days, so it's from which day?
So that would be once tribal consultation is complete. So there is a 14-day period from once the applicant requests a AB or invokes AB 130. And within that 14 days, the city or local jurisdiction would need to issue letters to the applicable tribes. And from that period, those tribes have 60 days to respond with a request to consult. And that starts a consultation period, and that can range anywhere from, say, 60, 100 and some days. I don't know the exact timeline, but following once tribal consultation is complete, it would start that 30-day timeline of review and perhaps, say, approval or denial of the project. So,
okay, thank you very much. Any other questions to the staff at this moment?
Just another process question, actually. So we are being asked just to provide initial comment, but is going to the city council for in the spring, basically. So this is the only time we will be seeing this project, correct?
correct. This would be probably the one meeting that would be before the Architecture Review Board, just based on the strict timelines for processing of the project.
And we are not voting on like approval or anything on this project, it's just comments? Okay.
Well, I think staff's intent was, to provide opportunity for the Architectural Review Board to provide some initial comments. It was scheduled as an action item on the agenda, so there could be an action made or a recommendation to either recommend, say, to council to approve the said project. So that definitely is well within the realm of kind of what could occur today. So.
Okay, if no other questions, we will move on to applicant presentation. And you will have 10 minutes. Please state and spell your name, please.
Let me get hooked up really quick.
Sure.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marissa Riley. Did you need me to spell my name? Was that the request? It's spelled Marissa-Reilly. I'm a project manager at Ceres Regis Group of Northern California. And firstly, just thank you for providing the time for us to come and speak with you about 3606 El Camino Real. We're really excited about this housing opportunity. As Stephen mentioned, this is a builder's remedy project, so it's not the typical entitlement process, but you'll see that we've taken a lot of care to create a project that's thoughtful and contextually sensitive and really aligned with the city's goals for the future of El Camino. I'm going to begin with a brief introduction of our design team. We're working with BD Architecture, the Gazzardo Group, Kieran Wright. Together, those Bay Area local groups have 152 years of experience working in the Bay Area. Ceres Regis, we're the development advisors. We've also been working in the Bay Area for 32 years. We're based in San Mateo. And then we have the property owner, the Giovanotto family, who've been stewards of this property for 20 years. This project provides tremendous community benefit. There's 321 units being provided. 37 of those will be affordable units. This project supports the city's RENA goals, and this site was identified in the housing element as a great place for housing. Further, we're going to transform this portion of the El Camino Real corridor into one that's, pedestrian, friendly. It's really activated, and it'll really improve the pedestrian experience as it exists today. And finally, you'll see that we've really taken the focus area objective standards and really conformed to a lot of those. So the existing site condition, it sits squarely on El Camino Real. The context is largely commercial, and then it's proximate to multifamily housing and single-family housing as well. It's important to note that this is also a pretty transit-rich site. There's 2 bus routes that serve this site. There's this new bike lane along El Camino Real, and it's just just a mile away from the Cal Ave train station. And the existing pedestrian experience leaves a lot to be desired. Currently, right now, it's 1- and 2-story, commercial buildings that are underutilized. We have vacant land, pretty limited landscaping. And so I think it's one of those sites that whenever any of us would walk down El Camino, you'd say, that's a site that's really ripe for transformation. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our architect, Nathan, to walk you through the proposed project.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Simpson, Nathan, and Simpson, just like the cartoon, Simpson. I'm a principal at BDE Architecture and the designer for this project. And just diving into the project right here, some of these renderings you've seen already. The project is envisioned to be mostly a timeless design in a contemporary context. So you'll see a lot of asymmetry, which is very common on a contemporary building, but keeping a more timeless aesthetic. We are using traditional symmetrical windows, and then you'll see throughout the design aesthetic overall symmetries, including on the side of the building where the entrance is. We keep that very symmetrical, just kind of helping with wayfinding. That also has an architectural element with the vertical fins, just creating a little bit more design aesthetic, a sizzle, shall we say. Even better. Sorry if I was a little quiet there. And then overall, using a traditional design of base, middle, top, so you can see really strong trim lines on the project, and then a heavily articulated base using a upgraded material that will last, especially with the traffic on El Camino Real. Those are some of the major comments there. Looking at the elevations and the materials themselves, we're using a warm, neutral color palette. The palette includes 2 tones of brick, both of which are a warmer tone. On the base of the building, we would use a darker brick, just to hide a little bit more of a vehicle soot, such as brake dust. And then on the upper corners of the building, at the main corners, we're using a lighter brick just to help accentuate the corners and make them a little bit more special. As an accent material, we're opting to use a metal, mainly on the fins and also around the base of the building at awnings, and also at some garage screening facing El Camino Real. That color is mostly a weathered bronze. I think we have some flexibility on what it could be. Right now it looks more of like a patinaed gold in this rendering right here. but it is more of a weathered brass, and I think we have a material board that shows that sample. And then around all of our storefronts and at our main entry of the building, we're also introducing an upgraded material with actual marble. We were envisioning a brown marble, just something that really stands the test of time. And then mentioning the El Camino Real experience, we are a transit corridor on El Camino Real, and it also is a pedestrian experience. So what Marissa was showing previously on what the design was is you had a sidewalk with no landscaping, just a few existing street trees, and frontages on those businesses that weren't overly desirable. It was actually empty parking lots on a few areas. With our proposed design, the El Camino Real street frontage would have a substantial base on the building that steps down 6 feet. The enlarged trim all along the top of the building also helps scale it down, so you don't see the top of the building using that base middle top design aesthetic. And as you look down through here, you'll notice that the building's also stepping down to stormwater treatment. That helps scale the building a little bit more. And then we also have, I believe it's a 4 or 6 foot wide planting strip that's been added along with more trees. All of this is to create a more pedestrian-friendly realm and also shield pedestrians from the traffic. And then you'll also notice we have a bus stop right up front. This is right at our front door, so the project is very aware of our transit orientations. Looking at the plans, some things I want to really point out is at the corners of the building, I'm going to do something naughty. I'm going to actually go backwards real quick, but I want to note on this plan right here at the corners, the building is stepped back a little bit to help create a little bit more special interest at the corners. And then these are also our main frontages. So our main lobby is in yellow right here. We have pickup and drop-off zones all along that area. We also have an internalized garage for visitors that can get in and out of the site. And you'll also notice that all the entries are along Kendall and Matadero for garage access. We also have trash located on Kendall, which would be staged just for trash pickup days, and then it would go back into the building. And then because we do have the bike lane right along El Camino Real, we've opted to have on the opposite corner of our main lobby a bike shop and a bike lobby. So pedestrians on bike can get into the building very easily. We also have centralized elevators, so bicyclists really have a front door. They're not secondary to the building at all. And then we've also taken, consideration of Uber drop-offs and Grubhub orders, all those sort of items. And then really quick, I want to step back really quick to this rendering. I didn't mention it. It is a 7-story building, and we've taken great care to not only conceal the 2nd-story garage, but do double height spaces along the majority of El Camino Real, and that creates a 6-story reed at the corner here. And then we also step back with a roof deck here. So the building's using a lot of tricks to help scale it down, especially at a pedestrian level from eyesight. And we also are including a mass break, which is consistent with some of the city's desires on just better design. That fitness center that you see right here in the middle is at that mass break. We're hoping to at least program visually this area right here just with exterior landscaping, just so when you're in fitness, you don't have to look at a screen, you can actually look at some greenery. And then the other thing on this sheet is I want to note the landscaping. All the way around the building, we do have at least a 10-foot setback or more with neighborhood fences and trees just to really create some buffer. Some sustainability on the project, since architecture includes everything these days, is we are all electric. The project will be solar equipped. We have EV charging infrastructure for all the units. The project will be equipped with all the Title 24 latest and greatest energy and water efficiencies. We also are using native and drought-tolerant plants. The project will have 100% stormwater treatment. The bike parking with repair station and ECR bus lines being right up against the building are going to encourage an alternative mode of transit from 30 seconds, from cars, sorry here. And then jumping down a little bit, the alignment with the focus area goals, we are working on really aligning with that, including this project is 100% housing. It's below the FAR limit. The building scale and density are in alignment. It does exceed parking ratios, so street parking won't be impacted as heavily. It does provide affordable housing and shields parking from the street. And I think those are the main things we had to get there in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good on time. Thank you very much. So before questions to the applicant, we will open it to public comments. Do we have any public speakers?
Yes, through the chair, we have currently 5 requests, more requests to speak. We have 8 requests to speak. Our first speaker will be Chris J. I'll invite them to the mic at the moment.
And through the chair, given that it is just about 11 o'clock and we do try to complete our meetings close to noon, just wanted to check in to see whether you do want to allow 3 minutes for each speaker or whether you want an adjusted time.
Oops, sorry. With that in mind, could you please reduce your time to 2 minutes so that we can still have everybody to have a chance to talk? Sorry for the... Thank you. Please state and spell your name.
All right, my name's Chris Jung, spelled C-H-R-I-S, last name is J-U-N-G. And I live in Barron Park. I live 1 street just south of Kendall on Barron Avenue. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. So I recognize that there's a need for housing development, especially for below market rate housing. I know that this one is going to be, I think, 13%, which is great. I'm all for development, and I feel like it's definitely needed, and Palo Alto needs to move in that direction. The concern that I have with this particular project is that it's the mass on the non-commercial sections of the property. So we have 7 stories at El Camino, and I think that's, I mean, it seems kind of big to me, but I guess that's okay. But as we move down on Kendall and Matadero, the residential sections there, it just seems like it's a huge wall, and it's really going to negatively impact the neighborhood. And I don't even live like right there on Kendall or Matadero. I live on Barron, which is, like I said, one block south. And so I'm just kind of concerned that these single-family homes and low-rise apartments are going to be really negatively impacted by this mass. So without upper story step-downs, the building just creates a sheer vertical jump for these. Like I have a budding neighbor from on the other side of our backyard, Tim, who I wish he was here right now. His home is going to be faced with this wall, and
Thank you. That concludes your time.
okay, thank you.
Our next speaker is Star T.
Hello, Star Teach Out at 3550 Witzel. Since you've cut the time, I just want to say up front that I recommend you require a transportation analysis and evaluate the areas which do not meet the El Camino focus area, which are many. Abandoning properties on El Camino for decades is not stewardship. A well-designed building in the right place with complementary landscaping is not just a beautiful structure, it's an asset in building the community we're all trying to create. This underscores the importance of your roles for our city and community. The recently unveiled police services building is such an example, as is 3150 El Camino. It's beautiful. In contrast, 3606 may have some internal features that have value, but the negative impacts are not trivial. And if the surrounding buildings were not owned by one of the developers, there would be much more opposition. The scale and mass are too large for this site, especially without underground parking. It has a blocky, uniform facade that stretches the entire length of El Camino. It offers no consideration for blending with the surrounding structures, nor has there been any public communication about traffic impacts. The trash management system alone is problematic. I can't imagine the sound of a mechanical trash compaction process so near to the Kendall homes. Let's see, one only need, I'm trying to cut out some things, one need only look at 3150 to see an effective design. I want to give compliments to Studio T Square, acclaimed companies, and Garrett Sauls for a development that started as a builder's remedy and then transitioned to a fully compliant development. I'm going to send you my notes because I can't squeeze it into 2 minutes. Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Kay.
Good morning. I'm John King. I live at 724 Barron Avenue, so I'm also the president of the Barron Park Association. And so I'm here just to express that, there are generally concerns in the neighborhood about the project. And if that combined with the adjacent Creekside Inn project on the other side of Matadero, really could create quite a traffic, mess. And we're really concerned about that. It's a safe routes to school boulevard as well. It's Matadero Creek adjacent as well. We do want to, have that traffic study done because right now I just looked at Google Maps and there's a red line right down Matadero at 11 a.m. on a weekday that is halfway down, to Kendall already, and that's with nothing, on either side really. So those are some of the real concerns. As a, as a neighbor, I've known the Giovanatos. They're wonderful people. I really do want to support them in this cause. I know that we may be hamstrung by state law that is in place. It just, felt to me that the mass and the scale of this project is quite large. I did serve on the ad hoc committee about 20 years ago about the Grand Boulevard for El Camino. I love this, that it's going to be developed. It's going to be much more beautiful along that section. And I would enjoy, going and, partaking in whatever services are there. But I do think that, I just don't know what can be done, but I wanted to express that, maybe the timeline isn't going to comply with what the neighborhood would like would be some community engagement. And we would love for that to happen if that's possible in the time frame we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Penny B. Penny B, you may now speak.
My name is Penny Brennan. I live about halfway down East Matadero Avenue, across El Camino from the proposed building site in the Ventura neighborhood. I oppose the proposed project for several reasons. One, a high-density, 7-story building at this location would be at dramatic odds with the appearance and character of the Barron Park and Ventura neighborhoods it would be placed in and adjacent to. If it is designed similarly to most of the recently built developments along El Camino, it will have a modern concrete and glass urban design completely at variance with the almost rural, single-family residential character of the surrounding Barron Park neighborhood and with the post-World War II Palo Alto working-class character of the Ventura neighborhood across the street from it. A 7-story building at this location is going to tower and loom over that part of the Barron Park and Ventura neighborhoods. For example, from my kitchen window, which faces El Camino, I now look out at my neighbor's trees and the sky above them. If the proposed project is constructed, this view will be replaced by a view of 6 stories of concrete siding and glass windows. I estimate that a building with 321 units will represent a population of at least 600 to 1,300 new individuals. Likely, residents of each individual will own 1 to 2 cars, translating to 300 to 600 vehicles that will require parking and egress to and from the building complex. What is the parking plan for all of these cars? There are no or almost no available parking spaces along the streets bordering the proposed project, El Camino, Matadero, and Kendall, and parking has become severely limited on the streets across from the proposed site, Margarita, East Matadero, and Wilton. Egress of 300 to 600 cars to and from the proposed building site on the El Camino via Matadero and Kendall will be problematic.
Thank you.
I have emailed you with the rest of my comments. Thank you.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sridhar K. Sridhar, if you are there, I'll give you the opportunity to speak. You may have fallen off of Zoom. Right. Moving on now to Rob N. Rob, you may now speak.
Hi, my name is Rob Nielsen. That's spelled Nielsen, and I'm a Palo Alto resident. I support this project. I'll give you 3 quick reasons. One is its consistency with the city's housing plans and housing goals, and its way wants to meet the state requirement for 6,000 new units. All 4 of the parcels on El Camino were selected by the working group and the staff as very appropriate parcels for new housing. The city has since then added the El Camino focus area, and the council added this site in particular to that area. So I think it's a very good place to meet the housing, which is a very ambitious goal that we have right now. One problem with El Camino is a lot of the sites there have very small parcels and hard to assemble something. Here we are able to get something a little bit larger. Second is the location. There's a bus stop right outside on Matadero for the number 22 bus. It's one of the highest frequency buses in Santa Clara County, 4 per hour. You're a few blocks away from number 522, which has similar frequency. It's along the new bicycle route, the protected bicycle route that the Caltrans has provided. And it's not too far of a bicycle ride from Caltrans. Third is the schools. Schools is one area in our city where we have underutilized infrastructure, both the buildings and the classrooms, and also the soft infrastructure that we put into teacher training, recruitment, curriculum development. And the schools in this area have facing declining enrollment, and having more people here, a lot more family-oriented apartments will help solve that problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sridhar, you may now speak.
Hi. I live on 531 Kendall Avenue, right across the street from the proposed, where Pet Stop and others are going to come. I think I don't have any recommendation for the project except for the fact that a lot of commercial usages on El Camino has been converted to apartments. And what that is doing for all the residents in Barron Park, including ours, is that, it sounds very silly, but we have to go to like a different town for Safeway or a different town for McDonald's and stuff like that. I think having some sort of a mixed usage, using the front line of El Camino instead of garages as like some shops, would be very helpful. I think we should strongly consider that, so that would help us, walk and get some basic stuff, coffee, milk, etc. And that was my recommendation. We should strongly everything from the beginning of Oregon all the way to Arrestadero there's so many new apartment complexes coming, but if the front can be used for commercial, I think it'll be helpful. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Marcia V. Marcia, you may now speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Mircea Vascarician. So I had a couple of comments related to access driver, Matadero, and Kendall. I think some type of study needs to be done. I mean, you're going to be dumping 321 units, cars. Some of them, they might have 1 car or, maybe 2 cars, who knows, into those side streets. And in correlation with the Creekside Inn Hotel, that it's on the other side of this proposed driveway, I think some consideration needs to be taken to that study to be done, and then City Council to consider this one very, very heavily. The transition from literally a box to residential has not been done. It's pretty much like you get a mountain in your backyard, pretty much. That's the way it's been designed. Very poorly designed, in my personal opinion. I'm also like a real estate developer. And I think that some other considerations City Council needs to look at how those transition will have to happen at the proper time to residential. And then, of course, surrounding properties are owned by the same family, same applicant. But that doesn't matter. You should just respect also the residents that live on those apartments, not just put like a block of wall in front of all the properties or the backyard of the properties. And for consideration, I think that we had a similar project at Maybell back in the day. I'm a Barron Park resident, and that project, after City Council approval, was overturned by the neighbors that collected enough signatures because it was not appropriate project, and the voting was overturned. So that's it. We're willing to do that if it's going to come to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that's it?
Yeah, through the chair, I have no more requests to speak.
Thank you all for all your comments, and if you have additional comments, you can always email us. Sorry for the reduction of the time today. So with that, we will move on to applicant rebuttal, and you will have 10 minutes. However, I will kindly ask you to use your time efficiently. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for everyone's comments. I think there's just two quick points that we wanted to rebut. I do want to move on to hear everyone else's comments. In terms of the trash, we initially had trash staging on Kendall, and we heard feedback from the city that that just wasn't going to be appropriate, and there were some issues there. So we actually redesigned the ground floor of the building to pull the trash inside the building. There won't be any compactors on site either. I think that was a comment that was brought up. So all the trash will be staged inside the building, and only on trash day will trash be pulled out. That was just one quick thing. And then also just speaking about the massing, I think Nathan touched on all of the different design techniques we've used to really break down that massing. You know, we have a brow at the 5th floor. We actually do have a step back that's above the 3rd floor. So that's in line with the focus area had a step back at the 5th floor. We brought that down so it's even more of a pedestrian scale. There's also a lot of articulation along El Camino. I know that there was some comments about it feeling like an extruded box, but I think if we take a deeper look at that facade, you'll see that there is articulation. We do have a major facade break as well around the fitness room, as Nathan was speaking to. So I would just challenge those comments that I think our goal is to provide as much housing as possible and also respecting the design vision for Palo Alto, and I think this project achieves that.
All right, thank you very much. So we will bring it back to the board. Any questions to the applicant? Kendra, you want to kick it off?
I'll just ask a couple of questions of the applicant. This is just planning, few planning questions. I know the 7 stories up against 2 stories is a lot. Did you consider at least that the, I guess, west or south, furthest away from El Camino not being 7 stories, the little extension that goes down there? Did you consider that?
We did not. Our goal has always been to provide as much housing as possible, and so that's why we've kind of extruded up to 7 stories in that location as well.
Okay. Because it would be nice as a beautiful roof garden kind of thing on the southwest side. I know it comes with loss of some units. The other question I had is regarding the services as well. So you have a pool on the 3rd floor deck, and I see a pool vault on the 2nd floor. I assume it's a heated pool with all the chemicals and all of that. Where does all of that chemical delivery and stuff happen?
Do you want to speak to that?
So the project will have a pool and spa maintenance room on the 2nd floor or 1st floor. We haven't fully coordinated that. That's part of construction documentation, but it will be an internal room on site. Does that answer the question?
Not exactly, because all of the heating equipment, but also the chemicals that get delivered for chlorine and yada yada, that has to come somewhere, right? So I assume that would be somewhere on the street level where it comes in.
Yes,
Is
I
that
mean,
planned for?
deliveries would be at street level. I don't know if the project will be salt water or chlorine-based. It would all be in compliance with any state and local laws for storage.
Okay. Yeah, just to consider, because it might be on Matadero's side, which is already, there are concerns about traffic, so if there's deliveries that are stuck there. And also, they tend to be wee hours of the morning kind of deliveries, so something else to consider. On the third floor level, you have this, next to the pool, a pass-through to the courtyard-ish area on the right, with a bridge connect, so on the, the third floor has an opening, the fourth floor has a bridge connector, and then the fifth, sixth, seventh floors have units above. Have you considered what that experience would be like? It kind of seems to create a canyon between the two courtyards. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, we did think about it. What that does is it creates integrated spaces. Not every space needs to be open to a sky for it to be functional. You can have outdoor space that's covered, just if you're in a gazebo, for instance. So this space is meant to be used as more covered open space. And what it does is it just creates a visual connection and enlarges the overall open space versus having multiple little courtyards that are closed off to each other.
Because you do have a lot of planting, which is wonderful on that third floor level, including under that breezeway, and the space on the Kendall side will be landlocked by buildings on all sides with planting on the third floor with 4 stories of building above it. I just worry about all of that landscaping actually getting light and sunshine to grow.
So I think, it would be shade-tolerant species that we would provide in those spaces. And I think given the height of that space, actually, there'd be enough light penetration to get into the spaces where we are showing the planting. It's very minimal in that location as well, because we are, as you are, concerned about the level of light penetration.
Okay.
By the way, that's Morgan with our landscape team.
Sorry to introduce myself.
And since we are talking about that, one thing to note is if you're looking at the plans, we actually have south orientation for all our courtyards, so they do get sunlight. That was one of the intentions of the pool deck being oriented that way. But the other thing I want to bring attention to is the back of the building does have open courtyards facing our neighbors. That was our attempt to help with massing breakdowns. And also the back of the building has about a 10-foot step back along all the units at the third floor. So the back of the building does step down and create mass breaks for our neighbors. I just wanted to bring that up.
Actually, that's a good point. On the third floor level, that 10-foot step back, is that a balcony for the third floor? It's hard to tell from the
Yes,
plan
so
how that's being used.
they are smaller areas. They're not going to be programmable as common open space. So what we've done is created larger private decks and patios for those residents.
Can you share that, like that area with the pebble hatch? What is that?
The pebble patch, I'm kind of looking at, what reference are you looking at?
Yeah, right where the cursor is, that.
There we go. Okay, I didn't know who was looking at what.
That pebble hatch there. Is that outdoor space or is that roof?
It's not an occupiable space over the garage there.
So it's just
And so
roof over the
immediately
garage?
so it will just be some kind of crushed rock or decorative stone there to cover up the waterproofing at that level. And then on either side of it, that would be the patio extension. You can see on the A10 and the C30, those would be extended patios for those particular residents.
So the AC20 gets a larger balcony with the grid hatch or no?
Correct. Yes, it would have a larger. You actually go up. You can kind of see it. It's better shown on the B1 there in the A1. So there's a little of a patio extension there, and then there's a raised planter with shrub planting to provide some vegetation and some
That's
screening for
not
those residents.
That's not for residents to step out to?
No, just the area immediately adjacent to the unit.
Okay, so all those trees are over the roof?
Correct. They're on top of the garage.
Okay. So just the maintenance folks would go out there somehow?
And then you can see, actually, if you go to the right, or take that hand and go like, no, I'm sorry, to the left. Yeah, I'm sorry, he's laughing at me. There's a service path along the parapet that's 4 feet wide. That's how the planting would be serviced. So right there, correct. So they wouldn't have to go through individual units to service the planting along that edge.
So is that true of the courtyard that's on the bottom right in plan if you scroll?
Correct. It would be a similar. There's no planting shown there, but we could study adding it in a similar manner. But it would be the same condition where you would have a service path along that parapet to take care of the vegetation there.
Yeah, I was actually asking about if you slide up a little bit, there's the other little inset courtyard there. Is that for residents to go out to or only for maintenance?
It's only for maintenance. It's just a vegetated area that they can look at. It also provides a visual break for the building elevation, and their only access areas are their individual patios.
So for staff, this area is not the open space calculation then?
Correct.
Private or shared?
The open space calculation was garnered from those patio or balconies, if you will, provided for most of the units. And then as well as the other courtyard that are in the breezeway, so.
Okay. I guess for applicant, is there a reason why you don't want that to be a space that people could use? There's such a dearth of outdoor space in the project, and you have landscaped areas that, I mean, if you wanted to, you'd just jump your little railing and go there, or at least from the third floor, but why not make it nice for people to go out?
There's a few reasons for that. It is a smaller courtyard. It's also further away from a lot of our amenities. So in these buildings, we try to cluster up the most active spaces in the amenities near the building's entry. That pulls a lot of that active space away from the neighbors. So in our mind, different spaces can have different programs. This smaller courtyard is meant to be more passive in nature. It's really just to give some greenery for people and create the mass break in the building. The other two courtyards are programmed to be more functional and active.
You just have such small amount of outdoor space for people living here that seems like a lost opportunity, in my opinion. Perfect place for a little birthday party with this many people in an apartment building, you know. But anyway, this is not comment time yet.
The other thing I would offer too is that those planting areas are raised up too, so they're 26 inches minimum taller, above the finished grade. So it's not necessarily an area that you could walk up into. We need to get the soil depth up there to actually get the planting. So
How is that different from the other courtyards?
it's not any different. I'm just saying that's how it's not any different. We're just, as Nathan said, we're just choosing to keep that as a vegetated space only, and then focus the programmed areas to the larger courtyards themselves.
One other thing that wasn't mentioned on that is the raised planters would be for stormwater treatment. There's so many different programs that we have to fit into these spaces. By putting more stormwater on that courtyard, we're able to open up the other courtyards and make them a little bit more functional. So it's just kind of moving the kit of parts around.
No further questions right now. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sure. No.
I have one. The whole scheme is built on the courtyards, the third floor, which in itself, the activity space there should be quite successful. Everything, what happens, how does a person who's coming in here to meet somebody at the pool get to the pool? By the elevators on the side, but the whole building, to just make this point clear, seems to be a very central, accessible building, but there's no door in the middle on the front of the building. Why didn't you consider having an entry? You have some other projects that have entries in the middle. What was wrong with creating a recessed
Are you talking about the building's front door being on Matadero?
No, being on El Camino.
So El Camino is a traffic-driven area. We opted to move pedestrians away from the heavy traffic to the less trafficked area. It's just pedestrian safety.
You have a significant sidewalk on El Camino, don't you?
We do.
So what would be the problem of walking along there, meeting somebody in the center of the building?
You could. The way this building is set up is we have elevators, so the vertical circulations are meant to drop you down near those lobbies at the corners of the building. Corners of the building tend to be a little bit more active, so that's generally why we do it that way.
Centers of the building get you equal to the distant apartments. In fact, with a pass-through that was discussed before, there's a center corridor down the middle of the building.
Yeah.
Seems to me that would be a reasonable place for.
It's a kit of parts that we always have to work through on a program, and on this particular building, on the first floor, we do have our main lobby, and the garage access wouldn't be realistic on El Camino Real given the bus line and bike line. So our garage access, which is our resident entry, it's also drop-offs, it's also our front door. Being on Matadero, if we were to put the entry to the building on El Camino dead center, that would be over 200 feet away from our garage entry, which is how most people will be visiting the site. So the idea is we put our entry to the building, which is driving, bus stop, and the lobby all at the corner, all centralized.
You might have added that there's a bike way that would go along the entire front of this building?
I believe the bike lane is already installed.
And it does go, it would continue to connect across?
Yes, so by keeping all of our curb cuts on Matadero and Kendall, we're reducing any sort of traffic congestion that could happen on El Camino Real.
And if I may on that, so those bike lanes were added, I believe it's class 3 and class 4 bike lanes that Caltrans had placed along El Camino.
If you've driven it recently, it's those big white reflective fins. They just line this entire stretch of El Camino on both sides. They're these, foot wide, 3 foot tall reflective fins the whole way down.
Are both Matadero and Kendall all the safe to school route? Do you know that?
I think both streets are.
Okay.
Quick question. This property would feed into Barron Park Elementary, Juana Briones Elementary, both?
I don't know.
Okay.
And you mentioned about the trash collection. So do you know how often the trash will be collected? Each week, like twice a week or 3 times a week, something like that? Do you have any calculation? Okay.
2 to 3 times a week.
Okay. And you also have a trash room that is like at the center of the building. So how will you do the trash in that room? Will you pull it to the one close to the street, or how do you do that?
Good question. A building of this scale, we generally put in 2 trash chutes into the system. One, it's shorter distance for the residents to walk. 2, Amazon boxes these days have clogged chutes consistently. So not only have we upsized the chutes, but we always provide 2 trash rooms now. That way, if one goes down, one still works. The building maintenance and managers will be staging all the trash into the Kendall trash room on the day of trash pickup. So it would be a function of the building.
Okay, and for the parkings for the tenants, are they all designated parking space to the units? So like each units are more closer to where they live, like down to the close elevators, and then
That's a part of leasing. I think the parking is unbundled, I believe. Yeah, yeah, but it will be assigned, and we do assigned parking in these projects just for that very reason, to get people close to their elevators.
Okay. And you have tandem parkings that is for the larger units?
In general, those would go to the larger units unless someone in a one-bedroom wanted those extra stalls.
Yeah, so because you have like 39 units for 3 bedrooms, but you have 45 tandem parkings, right?
Correct. I think so. I'm not going to get those numbers perfect.
Okay. And are all those street front spaces for the tenants only, or they also open to the public?
Our garage has visitor parking off of Matadero, which is, I think, around 6 stalls, plus or minus. Those would be for anyone to come in and visit, and then everything else is gated and secure.
Oh, no, I mean like for the fitness center and co-work bike shop, are those for tenants only, or?
Oh, sorry, yes. It's a 100% residential building, so there's no commercial use for exterior residents.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Maybe the easiest one. Have you thought about changing the address to Matadero? I mean, I'm just thinking, because the Uber drop-off and DoorDash drop-off is there, the parking is there, the visitor parking is there. Like, I expect there's going to be a lot of confusion.
Nail on head with that one. We're aware of that. A lot of times these projects in the early conception phase will use whatever address was given. Yeah. We know that we want to put our entry on Matadero. We've already had internal discussions on changing the address. So the address is more of a placeholder on the renderings.
Okay. So then, my other question is about the front facade. I think some of your renderings, are more attractive than others. But I think, like in general, like it's like the building is almost 400 feet long, and I mean to me it does feel very heavy. And I get your point. Like you went through the city code in detail, and you put in all the fins and the variation that is required by the code. So I acknowledge that. But I think like in general, like when we take a step back and say, okay, even if you comply with those guidelines, like I mean to me it does look very blocky.
Is it a question?
Yeah, it's a I'm getting to the question.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
So so I think, maybe, so first question is, like this building looks very similar to the examples that are shown in the code. Like, are you trying to kind of make a building that looks like that? Or like, do you really want the building to look like this? Because
interesting question.
Because it feels like you're being constrained kind of by those diagrams in the code. This building looks like so wide. You could almost make this building look like 2 or 3 separate buildings. Like you don't change anything on the interior, but from the facade, like on the left side, if I look at it from El Camino, on the left side from the gym, maybe, I mean, I'm just saying random things. That could be Mediterranean style. and the gym could be like modern, and then on the right-hand side, you have something modern. Just kind of break it up a little bit more. And then also, I noticed that, you kept the height within the kind of the limits of the and in fact under. And, that's great. I mean, I know, with builder's remedy, you could ask for, all kinds of exceptions. But like, I wonder whether there would be an argument for the kind of varying the building height. I think also one of the public comments was maybe on El Camino, you could go, it's maybe not a big problem, but, further back, it's more of a problem because of the proximity to the single family residence. Like, I'm not saying, you should go like very, very high in the front, but just kind of have some variance in the, in the height would, I think would help. Like, have you thought about that? Yeah, so I think it's kind of a big, big topic, and I don't want to like pigeonhole you into my recommendation or my solution, but I think, if, I'm not trying to reduce your density, I'm not trying to increase your cost, but if, have you thought about maybe putting like even more variation, breaking it down to make the building look smaller? What do you think about that?
One thing I was thinking about at the beginning of this meeting, I'm hearing about the massing, is we got to start opening up with the just white massing model so everyone can see what these things look like without the base middle top, the mass break in the middle, the step backs at the roof decks. There was a lot of moves on this building to reduce its overall scale. And then just mentioning, we weren't very prescriptive with the ECR plan because we aren't beholden to it thanks to builder's remedy. The design aesthetic that you're seeing is one that was intentional. We actually had a design for this project that was much more modern. And what we thought about as our team and the client was thinking about it is, if you have a timeless design like this that has more traditional features on it, the project can stand the test of time versus being dated very quickly. That's why we don't have a concrete and glass box here. I think, let's see, I think I got your question on height, but the one thing I want to reference back to height is for a building of this scale, I think what everyone's starting to reference is adding more floors to the front of the building and reducing the number of floors on the back. That will potentially create a type 1 building, which would be, this is a wood building on 2 levels of concrete. That would be cost prohibitive for us to go higher, just to go to concrete. And then the other issue with doing a stepped building like that would create egress problems in the back of the building to where we would be adding more stairs and elevators. So it's cost prohibitive to do different levels and also switch to type 1 construction. So I think that hits on the topics you were asking.
One more thing, unrelated. What do you think about some amenities for residents, like a coffee shop or like a convenience store or something like that?
So if it's 100% multifamily, not mixed use, we're really trying to stay away from retail. Now, the coffee shop and amenities like that, that's very common in a project of this scale to have that in the residence amenities. Some of our projects even have beer taps now, so it's very common to have drinks in the amenities.
That would be dedicated to the tenants?
Yes, that's part of their rent. They just
it's
get
part
that
of
amenity.
their,
Yeah.
It's not like somebody from the neighborhood could drop in for a coffee?
No, it wouldn't be like that. That would create a mixed-use environment, and then we'd have to have a retail component to the project.
Could you please walk through us on the materials? I noticed you specified the beautiful marble, and it seems like on the front elevation, it only happened on the left side, while you keep the other on the left side.
Yeah.
So on the right side of the front elevation, it's all the taller glass. Is it correct?
So all along this sheet right here, if you look at that bottom left corner, that's the typical storefront configuration, which is a dark brick, and then it has the marble inlay. There's a marble inlay around that storefront, and then another level of brick to frame it. This is a scaling design technique just to reduce the overall scale. But we do have that marble along all of El Camino Real, and it stretches all the way over to Kendall.
Okay, so if we go to the front facade, I mean the facade along the El Camino Real, so are the window heights different? Like it goes from taller on the leasing office side and then goes down to fitness and then even lower on the pet shop?
So our building, I'm trying to find a good image here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the sheet AP 3.00, the front elevation.
Yeah, we have a mixed, here we go, perfect. I was actually looking for the plans, there we go. So this is our second floor. You can see some blue frontage along here. It stretches from Matadero all the way to the mass break in the building. That's double height space where we're using that to conceal the garage and create taller amenities. So half the frontage has double height windows, and then the other past towards Kendall would be single height windows.
Yeah. One thing to add here is that one of the requirements of the focus area was that there is, I think it's 14-foot heights in the ground floor, and that's something that we recognize as part of the contextual character that the city's trying to achieve. So by having those double height features, we're able to further activate the pedestrian experience along El Camino and shield that parking, which is another goal of the focus area objective design standards.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask two very quick graphic questions? On the plans, particularly on the third floor, third floor, some of the balconies have a green coloring in the plans and some don't. Is that a material change? Yeah, one more level. There we go.
Right here, let's see.
Actually, one before this, the one that has the third floor courtyard.
Got it, the podium. It's mostly identifying the private decks versus just open space on the podium.
But down at the bottom of the plan, those two units have green as private, but I thought the ones on the left also had private balconies. Do they not?
I think that's a graphic problem on our end. There's two different overlays here. There's a landscape overlay and architect, and I think we just missed that color there.
Okay, and actually, while you're on this level, and actually, can we go 2 levels down? Just the scaling of the trees, the existing, actually one, here we go. The existing trees, the street trees are much larger canopies than what you're showing on the bottom left and right in plan on the lower portion. I couldn't find what tree species or planting species is it like cypress kind of thing, long skinny things? What's going on?
Along the southern extension?
Yeah.
So it's Catalina ironwood, so it'll be a tall columnar native tree there, gets about 25, 30 feet tall. So we're trying to provide adequate screening to the neighbors along those frontages.
And then if you go up to the third floor level where you have the walkway, or I guess service-only path, with similar scaled trees, which in this version, we don't see the bottom trees. Are they same kind of thing?
They'd actually be smaller, just because of the volume of soil is limited up there, because they have a raised planter above the roof. So they're going to be more ornamental and in scale towards the patio itself.
Okay. So on the left side in plan here, for instance, you have the skinny trees on the ground and then tiny plants on that.
I wouldn't say they're tiny. I mean, I think it's like, it's like a 10 to 12 feet tall tree in there. I wouldn't say that's a shrub, but it's providing additional screen. It's providing additional screening. I don't know how much it is for the neighbors at the ground for. That's what that tree that we're actually planting in the ground. We're hoping that that's going to achieve the screening that we're desiring.
And so elevation-wise, these would start above the 25 feet of.
Correct.
Lower trees.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? David? No? Sure, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to keep my questions brief. What prompted the design decision to angle the interior corners of the courtyards?
Good question. On multifamily buildings like this, it's really a function of getting densities. These particular units, we kind of call them our corner busters because they get us more density. The angle is just a function of the geometry. There's different ways to do it. It could be angled like this, or we do kind of L-shaped interlocked units. This is just the program that this particular project has.
Have you guys built a building with this type of program before with these angled units?
Thousands and thousands and thousands of them.
Find that they're successful with the angled walls and furnishings okay?
Oddly enough, we have some clients where they say they're a residence, they rent them faster because they're unique spaces. Not everyone wants just a box.
Okay.
So they rent pretty well.
Okay. Staying on those angled ones, I also noticed that, or actually not on the angled ones, on the floor plans. I noticed in floor plans J1.1 and J1.0, you have bedrooms that are not on the exterior wall. They are actually inboard. One of them seems to have some sort of glass partition between the bedroom wall and the living space. The other one seems to be a solid wall. That seems highly problematic, and I'm wondering how you're going to resolve those floor plans.
Yeah, they would be borrowed light bedrooms, so it's not a solid wall. It would actually be glazed glass, frosted.
In
So
both of
it would be
those. And
private,
then
yeah.
light and air, so you get the light, but what about the air?
The air, those units typically have barn doors or large sliding doors on the side of them. So you have glass on the front facing the living room, and then you have a door on the side that opens it up all the way.
And it all complies with egress?
Absolutely.
The vertical fins at the Matadero side, I noticed that those are there to sort of emphasize, so when you go to your, really fancy rendering right at the very end of the presentation, that thank you slide, you've got the vertical fins sort of at that angle, and as people are driving southbound on El Camino, exactly, that's the view they're going to see. This is sort of the showpiece view. So I do appreciate that this is sort of the rendering that we see over and over again, because that's really the most prominent facade that people are going to see when driving. And we are a vehicular city as much as we don't want to be. But you use these fins over here, and I'm assuming that that's to emphasize the lobby area?
Yeah, yes, it's meant to do wayfinding. So mentioning the whole building entry on the center of the building. Because our frontage on ECR is so long, we really think it was wise to put the entry on the side of the building where it's a lot smaller, and it's centered on that frontage.
So you're somewhat reading my mind, but before we get to that conversation, why did you not choose to put any on Kendall?
Kendall is just a secondary frontage to the building. This is really our main corner. This is where the building managers will be. This is where the mail will go, all your pickups. We really try to keep it clean where you know where the front of the building is.
Understood. Now I'm going to touch base on the El Camino facade. I mean, you have a huge stretch of facade here. Board member Joe Jarth was talking about potentially breaking up the building massing, so it felt like more than one large building. Did you consider applying these fins or something similar at any other point in this building to potentially break up that facade? I understand the logic behind why you chose to put the lobbies in the sides. I would argue that I'm kind of with David on this, that there should be something in the middle of this building. It is a massive facade. So the question is, was there any consideration for breaking this up or creating some sort of secondary lobby? Maybe it doesn't go all the way to the top level, but maybe it's somewhere halfway down and these fins come out to, again, sort of break up the extensiveness of this facade along El Camino.
We did not consider putting the fins anywhere else, mainly because El Camino Real doesn't have a pedestrian entrance. On Kendall, we could do that, especially since, I'm trying to get to the plans, we do have a lobby there.
Yes.
So that could be a possibility to move that metal work around the building.
And then, sorry, I'm going to draw on the screen if you stay on that screen for just a second. So yeah, having some fins at that lobby area would make some sense. You also have this dip in there, which is, in my mind, it's somewhat a little bit de-emphasized, right? You've got this one tree that's sort of pulled back, and that could be a really interesting moment, and it could be an opportunity to break up the facade. And additionally, if you actually flip the other screen, I think it's one more up. Sorry, it's the one that shows the second level where we can see the double height in the blue. I guess it's one down. Yeah, there we go. So this area here, when you're looking at this facade along here, you've got that beautiful double height glazing. I think it's really interesting how you guys have hidden the parking garage behind it. I think that that's actually quite successful. But you have this sort of natural break here that would, you know, break this building up visually to be the left side and sort of this right side here. And I'm wondering why put all this attention into this bump in and then not do anything with it visually on the facade on El Camino? Was there a different design before? Was this sort of, this indent, was that in reaction to that one tree area? Talk me through that a little bit.
It is not an existing tree. Sorry, I get turned around on the set a little bit here.
No worries.
Pushing buttons. There's no existing tree there. We didn't have a mass break originally. We acknowledge that the project needs a mass break. And the mass break where we have it is just off center, just off center from the street across, I forget what the name of the street is, but it is just off center from the street across from us. And what that does is it lets our building have its corner emphasized visually on that street alignment. So we put the mass break there intentionally. Does that answer the question?
More or less. Thank you. Two smaller questions. Bus stop integration, again, if you just stay here, it looks like it's just sort of disconnected, but right there, easy access. Is there anything you're going to do to sort of emphasize that or reinforce the bus stop that's existing?
The building does step back at the corner here. So at the base of the building, we do have the 6-foot step back, but at the corner, we do step it back just to create more of a pedestrian realm at the corner.
Great, okay. Final question. I noticed on the landscape design, so I might be looking at the landscape architect, that there was a pet area sort of emphasized in the images. And then on the floor plan with floor level 3, I didn't see anything labeled pet area, so.
It's on the ground floor.
On the ground floor.
Yeah, if you go.
Am I pointing it out?
Yep, it's on the left side of the drawing, right, no, keep right where those 5 trees are, it's right there. So it's a fenced little run area there. It's a DG area, and then it has tree planting.
All right, so me with my 100-pound dog would have to take the elevator down to the first floor to let him relieve himself on this little batch right here. Is it gated in? Is it fenced in?
It is fenced.
Fenced in, okay. But likely for smaller dogs, I would assume, since it's a relatively small area?
I mean, the challenge there is that there's transformers back there that PG needs vehicular access, so like I'm giving as much of a footprint as I can. I hear what you're saying. And then having it up on the 3rd level, it's a sound issue. It just becomes really loud activity, and then it's a maintenance issue as well, smells and whatnot.
Yeah. Do you mind going up to the 3rd floor really quickly?
If I do it too fast, I won't find it.
There we go, right there. Do you foresee people coming down and being like, oh, my dog's fine right here, or my dog's fine right here?
I mean, it becomes an operational challenge, like we've done it on other projects as well.
Right, I mean, I guess, how do you enforce that? Some little lady on the 7th
have to look to
floor.
property management to enforce it.
Okay, so, and they would be required to go all the way down to that 1st floor and sort of run them in that small yard there? Okay.
Even the pet owners are not even allowed, right?
Oh, right. Nobody can get there. Okay.
But your 100-pound dog can jump the
I mean, he could jump the fence for sure. All right, thank you.
I do have a follow-up from Kendra on the facade break, because if you go down to the 1st floor level, where you're showing the fins is actually here, right?
Correct.
So it's not really at the lobby per se, because the lobby has this corner presence, and then you're kind of doing, the fins are almost like a backdrop to the lobby.
I mean, the entrance is
Sorta.
on the fins, but the lobby, I mean, it's kind of orienting you differently. So you're entering off Matadero.
Right. Well, I guess it seems like the fins are nice, but it's not, it doesn't say, enter here, this is the lobby. It's kind of like, it sort of does, but I guess what I'm getting at is, it doesn't seem like it's exclusive to lobby that you couldn't use the fins elsewhere. Is that correct? Do you see it that way?
I think what I'm hearing is you all like the fins and would like to see that moved around the building a little bit.
It seems like it's adding to at least some interest on that side elevation, and it seems like it could really help the front elevation if you had a moment of that, whether it's here, like, that seems like an obvious place between your change in the facade elevation. So you can at least have a 1/3, 2/3 on that long elevation instead of one, because in plan, that tree seems to do something. When I look at the elevation, I can't even find where that is. So it's not doing enough, in my opinion, so just curious if you would consider that.
One other feature that we're trying to anticipate is that there's a public art requirement for this project, and that sort of the indent is one consideration of a potential place for where there might be that feature down the road. We haven't gotten far enough with that consideration, but that's one of the things that we're sort of keeping our eye on, because we agree it's sort of an obvious place to put something, and maybe that's the solution.
We're having an awful lot of discussion that's sort of back and forth here.
Right, so if we don't have any additional questions, we can just move on to our comments and internal discussions.
Yes,
And-
I think it's a good idea.
And through the chair, given that it is nearly noon, I wanted to suggest, if acceptable to the ARB, that we might try something similar to what the council does in terms of giving, for the first round of comments, giving each member a set time period to try and keep that feedback concise, maybe starting with, since it is noon, maybe starting with 3 minutes each. A second round could occur if needed, but to try and really keep the feedback focused. But it is up to the chair.
Could I ask a question? Are you saying we can't go on to 12:30 here, or is there what's the limit?
So if the meeting needs to go till 12:30, my concern is that because it is noon, if we need a couple rounds of comments, then that's about 5 minutes each.
Yeah, if it was 5 minutes each, it'd be 25 minutes. We'd be already at 12:25.
And it is a concern in terms of city staff union requirements. They are required to be allowed a break, and so I do need, as the assistant director, do need to keep an eye on that. Our general policy is if we believe we're going much past noon, that we should be taking a lunch break. 12:30 is acceptable, but I want to help guide the board to try and keep within those time limits if possible.
I think it makes sense to limit the time for each member, and I understand some of our members have to leave at certain time. So let's start with 3 minutes, and we will see how it's going. So David, do you want to start?
Okay, I will.
It's up to the applicant. You can be seated.
Yeah.
I seriously think that you should reconsider an entry in the center of this building. It is so logical with the shape of the building and the way the circulation in the interior works. So why wouldn't you have not only entry at that point, this is a very filled building with 300 or so apartments, and you have to multiply that by 2.5 or whatever to get the real population here. So I definitely say that. I feel that the whole design of this building, and we've been questioning every little piece of it as well, is what I would call Angapachka. It's got so many materials. I would like it to see it with less materials, better used. You have very good projects that I see in your portfolio: Hanover, Soma, the Madelon, and 3000 Broadway. They're all really good projects. Every one of those three are better than this project, and that's really unfortunate that what has happened here, I think, is you have gone with the base, middle, top to the nth degree, and unfortunately, on a building that's 400 feet long, it just doesn't work. I just don't understand why. I agree with my fellow board member here that the top of the building should be broken with some breaks that really make some sense, which you do around the corner here. So one corner seems to be pretty good, and then none of that excitement happens throughout the rest of the building. The facade really bothers me a lot. I think that the scheme of the The third floor is terrific. I really love that. That's the community space, and there's lots of it, and it works very well. I think your center corridor really works very well, and I just don't think coming to the middle of the building and providing something special there isn't worth exploring for this building. Even with an elevator, of course, if you had an elevator at that location, if you had the mail drop-off at that location, if you had the package room somewhere nearby, you know, and you really focused everything more in the center of the building, it would be an incredibly increased value to this building. I'm sorry that I don't see that happening. And I want to just point out that your projects that you show, the ones that I'm speaking about here, I don't remember whether it's the SOMA project or whatever, has a terrific entry at the middle of it. The break in the front ought to be the front entry door, and it should be a major piece of architecture at that point. And there, maybe the fins again repeated in some way would really work. I don't see why you can't break up the line of the building up at the top as you have at the corner here. You know, you did a really good job on the very corner structure, but that doesn't repeat anywhere else. Why not make that an important element, you know, stretch it out, project it out for the whole volume of each of the volumes that you have coming along the facade. I mean, really, we have that base middle top, and it seems to me that unfortunately, it's something that you've said, well, if we have to use that, we better break up the building in order to use it, and your logic carries through, but it isn't well done at all. So that maybe in some of your other ideas that you've had, some other projects would improve this and reduce the number of materials as well.
Thank you, David. So,
Sure. I agree. You know, with the fact that I think we should try to break up the facade. It's just too long. It's too massive. You know, I'm not saying you should put the entrance on the front. That's an idea. That's a possible idea. But I think you should, explore other ideas, how to break it up, the height, and maybe also the style. Maybe you don't want to do the entire building concrete and glass, like you said, because it's going to be outdated. Maybe you could do just a corner of it, or something to make to vary the style a little bit. I think the Matadero side is quite nice. You know, I like it. It's not busy. And then, but the front is very busy. There are a lot of materials. So I think if you could, that would be really my only, feedback. I think you can do a lot while keeping the number of units, and it's not going to be more expensive. It's just, maybe doing it differently. Thank you.
all right, thank you. So I will continue. So I think this project, it is really a big apartment complex in this lot and in between two smaller streets. So I think for this one with the two garage entrances on the smaller street and all those delivery and trash pickups on the smaller street, it puts lots of pressures to the existing neighborhood. So I think to some extent, it makes sense to have something happening along the El Camino Rail to release some of the pressures from the side street. Or I see it's not possible, huh?
Well, there's existing infrastructure with those bike lanes that were put there, and then also perhaps recommending a vehicular entrance on El Camino would be in conflict with our standards for having, say, an entrance going onto a freeway there, and then perhaps getting an encroachment for a new driveway is an entirely different process with Caltrans. So,
okay, if that is the case, then maybe I would suggest you to consider setback more on both sides to leave like loading zones, things like that, to make this building more functional. And just look at the parking garage, I think there are lots of dead ends and lots of tenant parking. So I think there are some space to make it better, to make it more functional. And I do like the amenities that you provided to this program, like the pet shop, the bike shop, and also all those amenities on the third floor. I like the pool area, although the pool, it seems like it's kind of smaller for 300 units, but it's better than nothing. And I agree with the front elevations. They should have some breakups, and I do like the fins elements, so I think you should bring it up to some other elevations and to make the whole building more consistent. Thank you.
It's my turn. Thank you for bringing this project forward. I'll bracket my comments in 3 categories. One is the neighborhood experience. I do worry that a 7-story building, particularly on the south side towards single 2-story residences, is really large. I know we're not supposed to ask you to reduce unit counts, but it does seem really unfortunate on this neighborhood side. On El Camino, like your main block at 7 stories seems fine. I just worry about towards the south side. And as far as the street, so the second category about street experience, it is a very long building with, yes, you have little ins and outs, but it's not enough of a facade break to really feel impactful enough. So I would really urge you to consider using the fins or something else to break up the El Camino side facade. Then third category of the resident experience, it is a very, very dense apartment building. Obviously, you guys know this. I'm not convinced these triangular apartments, the angle ones, especially with like the tiny ones which have one window for an apartment, seems like not a pleasant experience. I would just urge you to think about that. And the last one, while you have a lot of amenities on the 3rd floor, it just seems really low for this many apartments, and I'm just flabbergasted that this other courtyard is not even available for people when there is a garden. Why don't, kids can have birthday parties, whatever, like you can make the soil work and still let people come out there. And similarly, like on those 2 sides, you have, basically you are on a tiny balcony and looking out onto extension of roof. So why not let at least some of those units have larger balconies? I think resident experience is really important. You're trying to rent apartments, like try to improve that a bit. It would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Again, I'm going to echo pretty much everything that Board Member Adcock said here, very much in alignment with her perspectives. I'll keep my comments short. I think that the stepping down towards the rear, if possible, and creating a rooftop garden back there. Again, anytime you can get a little outdoor space, a little fresh air, a little breathing room, people appreciate that. Making that secondary courtyard accessible, like that's kind of a no-brainer in my mind. I think that that's such a missed opportunity. So hopefully landscape architect has a little bit more work to do. Just expanding some spaces there I think would be really beneficial. Echoing what my other fellow members have said, the facade on El Camino is just too long. It's too massive, it's too repetitive, it's too much, right? And also not enough at the exact same time, which I know is a really complicated comment to hear as feedback. There's a lot of ins and outs, there's a lot of transitions, and yet it still feels like one big mess. So whether it's fins, whether it's artwork, whether it's something there, I think that there's really an opportunity to just break this up a bit. While I do appreciate that at the sidewalk level, you've got the larger windows on the front, what I'm going to call the sort of the north side of the building, and then it sort of steps down as you continue down El Camino towards the south. That's something, right? It's a good start. That indent, I would really emphasize a lot more. I would embrace it, run with it, push it in, and then maybe a rearrangement of the co-working space and the fitness spaces to be around it. So that's almost like a mini lobby. Because as much as you have this building really for the people who live there, you're going to have friends that want to come and work out. You're going to have friends that are going to, or people that have a co-working space and maybe they have a business partner that needs to come by for a meeting. So almost creating a mini lobby there would really make that space more functional and enhance the building facade. Again, I also agree with some of these smaller spaces. I get it, but I wouldn't want to live in it. So anytime I see something like that, it's a little bit hard to really fully support. I would also expand all the balconies wherever possible. When you've got these roof decks, bring them out, bring them farther as much as you can. And then finally, the pets, just because I like pets. I like the area. I like that it's been thought about, but it would be nice if there was, you know, you've got these trees going all the way around. Is there any possibility that's just like a dog walking path or something that actually people can experience all the way around the building and sort of embrace that a little bit more? You have this setback, you have these tree plantings. Could people like lap the building with their pets? Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. And just to give you guys a couple of positive things, because that's always nice to hear too. I think that your circulation internally with the elevator placement is actually very appropriate. We see a lot of buildings where you've got, you know, 100-foot run before you get to an elevator. I feel like you guys did a really nice job of sort of sprinkling those around the building so people always have sort of a nice location to be at. And again, hiding that parking structure is really very successful. So kudos to that. This corner facade is really very attractive. Just want more of this down the rest of the building. Thank you very much.
All right. Any additional thoughts? No? Okay, so this is an action item, so I will move this project to a date uncertain, or actually it will not come back to ARB, huh?
No motion needed.
Okay. Okay. So we will close this item and we will move on to the next one. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have 3 meeting minutes to approve. The first one is...
With permission of the chair, and then through the staff, is there a way that we can sort of consolidate the approval of these all at once, or do we have to go through for the 3 sets of minutes? Like, can we just get all the comments out of the way and approve them all at once?
I just wanted to share that for item 5, Board Member Rosenberg, you were absent, so I would just need you to abstain from that.
Abstain from that one, yeah, fair enough.
When I call.
But it can be a single motion.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So any revisions? Actually, I have one minor thing on the third one, which is on packet page 134. I think the date should be October 16th on the very first paragraph instead of January.
Pardon? All right, thanks.
Okay, is that any others? Okay, so we will approve all these 3 meeting minutes as written, except for the minor changes just mentioned. So can we have a call for vote, please?
Yeah. We have a motioner and a seconder?
Oh, yeah. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Board Member Hirsch? Yes. Board Member Georgia?
Yes.
Board Member Rosenberg?
Yes, abstaining from the October 16th ones, but yes to the other two.
Okay. Vice Chair Adcock?
Yes.
Chair Chen?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 for September 18th, October 16th, and then 401 for October 2nd.
Thank you.
Sorry, I think it's October 16th that I was absent, so.
Okay.
4 and an abstention on October 16th, 5-0 for the other 2.
Okay.
All right, so last is, are we good?
Sorry, now I'm complicating things. Let me just make sure that's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
I have you
October
on the
2nd.
second.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
no
I'm
worries.
complicating
Yeah.
things. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, so we will move on to board member questions, comments, announcements. Do we have any?
I do, actually, very, very brief. We have parking tags. Are we going to get new ones? Sorry.
Yes, we will.
Awesome, thank you very much. That's it.
Okay, with that, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.